grandfather fought fascism.
I know, right? Like, this is what we fought and died for, and it's like, well, we thought it'd be appropriate to
That was
take
like
our
that
kids to a
account
show.
where he posts a video of like the soldiers on Omaha Beach, and it's like this is what they fought for, and it's like the most man-made horrors. Anyways,
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Digital Archipelago, episode 20. We are having an early Thanksgiving special for you all. That way we are live here and now, so everyone can be with their families tomorrow, and you're not dealing with us hooligans. So, welcome. As you can tell by the title, we're going to dive into one of our passion projects, which is the wonderful bird app, the Twitter site, the heaven site, as Gio likes to call it. And so there's a lot of news that's happened since literally last week with all of the unbannings. Based Peter Parker is back on Twitter. It's one of my favorite novelty
I was
accounts.
thinking about him, where the one tweet where he's like, "You mean tell me they eat dirt cakes even when there's other food available?" Yes, even when there's other food available.
or the image of Peter Parker as Spider-Man swinging Aunt May to safety, and it's just like, oh, I'm glad you called, man. With the demographics in this city, I understand.
Or he like looks at the little by POC kids like, what? Why are you shocked? You guys say it all the time. And it's
but yeah, I mean, he's one of many accounts that have been seemingly unbanned at random, and so we thought that it'd be fun to just talk about Twitter. Gio and I are both on there quite prolifically nowadays. Gio much longer than myself, but what fun has it been for Elon Musk to take over Twitter? And I had made a short little meme about it because it had one of their like Twitter employees like photos from like just their PR account. It was like nothing but women. And then the latest account has been just like, oh, Elon Musk taking a selfie with a bunch of white guys and Indian dudes, like trying to make Twitter work. And it's just like proof that if you clear them out, 99% of all make work BS jobs disappear overnight. So I hope that you don't have one of those.
High IQ, neurodivergent, white, and Asian men will get the job done. So, you know what was funny though is that, well, should we do the shilling or?
Yeah, let's do that now before we get too deep into the weeds.
Yeah.
Gio, what do you got going for us this week?
Oh boy. So because we're on Wednesday, this week is another on Content Minded, another solo variety mega show. It's a Q&A, but as you know, with me, when people ask me questions, I usually give people more than what they expected, or more than they asked for. Really, they're begging me. Listen, content's flowing. I give you so much content, you're gonna say no, please, no more content. But then we're gonna give you some more. So, yeah, a lot of great questions. It's my month, or I think every few months I'll do it. My Patreon Q&A stream, but I go into like the art of photography, and people ask me about different futurists and so forth. So I have that, but also yesterday I released this video, which is a teaser on my channel of on my Patreon series, Generate Views. Right now I'm reviewing the I came out like literally in October, the current Byung-Chul Han book, Infocracy. And I released a teaser clip where I go into this long analysis of this one clip from the show Oz, if you remember it. Where the head of the Italians, Antonio Nappa, talks about the internet age. So I felt I just had to like review it because Oz is like one of my favorite series, and it was unfortunately got buried because it came right before The Sopranos. It was like the show that HBO did like before The Sopranos was their first like major show. But it really truly amazing writing, truly amazing. Even though the later seasons were like totally ridiculous, but. Yeah, so that's coming up, and next week I think I'll release a more Theory Cell Content Minded teaser clips, so forth. Yeah, just getting ready for, usually around December it's always like a big content and this year we're both going to be on a certain. Speaking of the holidays,
I was about to
speaking of Christmas, we're both going to be. Go ahead, Prude. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Gio and I are both going to be on Millennial this year, along with several other friends like Blood Satellite and Dime. So I mean, it's going to be a very good time.
Yeah, is Semiagog on it, or is
I think Semiagog will be on it. Academic Agent will be on it. More or less, all of your favorite people that you've been listening to for years.
Dave Martell will be on it.
I know. I think so. Yeah.
All right.
Even the Paranormies are getting on this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nice. I know. Big stuff.
I forget who other Twitter person. Maybe you think Oren McIntyre will go on Millennium?
I don't think he got an invite, but if he does, cool.
Yeah, maybe AA's
We're
going on.
we're all in on it, kids. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah. Or more excuse for people to call me an Austrian painter, but
There
no,
you
I'm
go.
kidding. I'm kidding. You know what's so crazy though? You know what's so crazy is that, like, apart from a few things that I understand were unoptical, I just, to this day, maybe I'll talk about it with him. To this day, I don't really understand why they went so viciously hard against Millennial Woes. Like, he really, like, if you look at the whole scene, especially in Europe at the time in like the 2010s, like, he wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? He wasn't that bad. He wasn't that bad. I think it was just.
I found it absolutely bizarre the other week that he was on Kino Casino. Like, what
a crossover.
Right in regards to content.
I think it's because they went to England. They did the fight where Worski got punched out by that Instagram guy.
Oh yeah,
TikTok Good guy, Saul Poppy. Yeah, so I think that's how they met up. Yeah.
Anything else, Gio?
I don't know. No, shilling wise.
Yeah.
Go to my Patreon, patreon.com/Genre Productions. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, for tonight, for my viewers on subscribestar.com/The Prudentialist, you'll have another reading from Stephen M. Walt and another episode of Flipping Through Foreign Affairs. And next week, I will be starting my reading series, takes and analysis on Murray Friedman's What Went Wrong, the rise and collapse of the Black Jewish Alliance, and Dimes and I are going to review it together sometime down the road. It's going to be a very good time. This Saturday on Prudent Observations, Semiagog will be joining me to talk about deglobalization. And then in a few weeks in December, both Semiagog, myself, and Charlemagne are going to be talking about the Three Seas Initiative, Intermarium, and U.S. aid to Poland in probably the most well-researched autistic deep dive into what the USG is doing. And I mean, it's going to be a really good episode. So stay tuned for more announcements. And then, of course, as always, you can buy me a coffee with the links down below. Gio, you can give him some support with the links down below. And now let's go on and get into the wonderful drama.
I also have a buy me a coffee and a PayPal if you want a one-time donation. But, another big announcement is I'm also thinking of, in January, doing a whole genre reviews on the Red Book by Carl Jung. But that'll take a long time, though. That'll take me multiple hours and episodes, because I feel like people that do it, they just breeze through it. They're like, Carl Jung had this experience, and I want to do like a proper theory cell dive into the Red Book. So there you go.
Well, they unbanned Trump. Let's just start there. They brought him back. He hasn't tweeted yet, which is unfortunate because
it's a power move for him.
Well, I guess, but if he wants, I think what Twitter was the key to his success and his administration of staying ahead of the media as well as on the campaign trail. I just don't see him having a successful 2024 run with not tweeting. Meanwhile, Elon's just tweeting memes about the Franciscan friar or whatever, just like praying while some prosty shows her rear end to him.
That one. Yeah.
The lead us not into temptation. I was just like, good Lord.
Oh man. I know, like, Elon's meme game is another, we'll get into it, how people are panicking, but before we get into Trump, because it's funny because, speaking of shilling, it's funny because in this chapter of Infocracy that I cover on my Patreon, it actually mentions Trump in 2016. And like, I kind of disagree with Byung-Chul Han a little bit. So yeah, but again, if you want to go to the teaser clip, go to my channel. But no, I think before we get into that, it's funny how that night where people thought Twitter was going to die because all the useless dead weight was shown the door. And by the way, Elon literally said namaste. Okay. He literally, before he redacted 6 million Jannies, he said namaste. And it's funny because that one photo of like the current Twitter team, there's only like a few women, but they're like, neurodivergent coder women that probably, femcells. But like, if you compare the Twitter, like, safety team of like those mid women to like the new, like the coders, the people doing the actual work, it's really night and day. But it's funny how, before we get into Trump, that night was something that you could feel the energy. Like, people were like memeing upon it, like Twitter's going to die. Twitter's going to go away because it's going to collapse and Elon's going to run. And I remember listening into this spaces with all of these like media people and blue checks. I mean, like, the old blue checks. And they were like, he's not a normal person. He's going to just cut his losses and run and destroy Twitter. And, he's not like, listen, do you know how much meaning and fun Elon gets out of tweeting? Do you think he's going to crash? The thing that gives him the most pleasure in life is to tweet, steal memes from 10 years ago. I mean, come on. But it was funny because these journalists, they were acting like they were all, again, to quote Millennial Woes, they were going all apoplectic that that the Birdsite was going to die and that Elon's crashing the ship. But really, I think if you're tuned into the Twitterverse for a number of years, you somehow managed to stay on that long, you notice that there are ebbs and flows. But I do know, and listen, people, I can record this and maybe this recording will survive for many years beyond us. And I could be wrong because all things have a cycle. But I noticed that Twitter is not like other social media platforms that come and go, like MySpace, or what was before MySpace? It was like what, LiveJournal or Tumblr.
Tumblr was after. And then before that, Usenet, places to meet up in forums.
Yeah, it seems that Twitter really is, because of its open AI UI, user interface, because you can experience, I mean, there is algorithmic suppression in terms of huddling people into skitter boxes, and there's networking and so forth. But I noticed that because of its open user face, that it's sufficiently kind of like a global brain. And even Twitter, even Elon Musk tweeted something like it kind of is the gauging of consciousness in a particular milieu at a given time. Now, that is, of course, a huge screaming maw of 1,000 faces and voices, all at once. It is Leviathan. But I feel that there's something more to Twitter than just like Facebook or something that probably does have a chance of dying one day. That Twitter is linked up to so much aspects of like, not just glow in the dark activities as Bourgeois Beatnik alludes to, but it is in the chat, but it is hooked up to different sort of vectors of discourse that really makes it indispensable. And I think that a good thing is that you can breathe a sigh of relief in terms of moderation, because I remember like surviving ban waves, knock on wood. And like sort of I've deleted tweets that have blown up because I've just worried that the wrong people would get a hold of it, especially irony people. And I do notice that a lot. I think what Elon did, the one virtuous thing he did, and you could say that he's not really our savior and whatnot, and he isn't, and he's not really our guy, but you could say that a lot of these Twitter moderation people, the Jannies, a lot of them were tied to like Tracker and anti-you-know-what accounts. And they were the ones doing these graph networks that basically got people banned for ban evasion and so forth. Like these, if Elon cleared out most of those Jannies, it means that all of those accounts that have doxed and harassed people that were working like with people in the inside of Twitter, all those people are gone now, okay? Those people are gone. The SPLC and the ADL, they want to burn the whole thing down, which we can talk about as well. Their strategy, their underhanded, can I say rat-like without getting strategy when they're going after Google and so forth. But I think that the one good thing is that those people are gone. The Yoel Roths of the world, they're trying to burn it down from the outside. And it's much harder to burn it down from the outside than from the in. And the people that are those basically network accounts that go after the quote unquote far right or whatever, people that originally got people like Sargon banned. Although I don't know, Sargon got banned. What did he get banned for in the first place? Did he post his ass or something? I forget.
I don't remember what got him banned. Was it after the infamous? No, it wasn't the infamous.
The prawn one.
R tweet. No. I really don't know. But
I forget.
It's like I'm sure he could tell us nowadays, right? And I mean, he's kind of been actually going back through his timeline and deleting.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Keith Wood said he's deleting all those anti-alt-right.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Apparently, posting
sending black gay prawn to people that the alt-right.
Oh yeah, and not to mention the white inward comment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a Sargon thing. That was such a Sargon of the 2010s. That's such a Sargon thing to do.
Back when the enlightened classical liberals could dunk on the alt-right by being degenerates.
I love how he's changed, though. He's so different now. It's amazing. But yeah, he changed it. His changed his bio as well. Yeah, that's good. Prawn tweeting.
Yeah, I mean, what a good. I mean, he's probably one of the few people that can illustrate that, like, hey, you can change, you can undergo some kind of rigorous intellectual development. And
he's always been on Millennial too. I think all of however many years
back when it started. Once Sargon got popularity, I mean, he's been on consistently. I don't know if he's going to be on anymore now since he's with the Lotus Eaters. I don't know if that would be good for him, but you know, I'm very happy to see where he's at. Yeah, I mean, he goes with AA. I've interacted with him. I think you have at one point. It's just it's a different world from.
I've only interacted with him once on his Twitter alt. I think we should do something. I want to do something with Sargon. I want to have the definitive Don Sargone history. The
retrospective.
Yeah. But no, I think that the good thing is that the Jannies have been namaste. You know, Krishna Musk has basically cleared them out, and it's making it. I even notice, and I don't think I should. No one of those people are listening to us. There is this pretty prominent anti-you-know-what account, anti-Fanuc account, as I like to call them, that actually had their account restricted because apparently Musk.
Is it your guy?
No. This is a big one. This is like the Colorado one. They actually had their account restricted over the whole mass casualty, you know what, incident that happened recently by I believe publishing the addresses of Matt Walsh and the Chaya Rajik. Just lives to TikTok. Rachik. I can never pronounce her name, although she's a very Never mind. She's a listen, we love our milk, K's our milkers, folks. But no. Apparently, they're going to enforce the rules against doxing universally, which I think they're panicking right now. I think as we speak, those type of people, these activist people, they're panicking if they're actually enforcing the rules around doxing people. I even saw this one account go after Borzy again recently. So I think that is like basically that is why they're panicking over Elon. If he does universally enforce these rules like against doxing, then these people are done for. They're done for. They won't be able to. It'll have a chilling effect over them publishing the real names of anons.
Well, the other thing too, right, has been this sort of virtue signaling, high and mighty. We must have a space for ourselves that ensures the, almost as if it's a certain number of words that are said, but this time it's for journalists. And they were like, we're going to go find another platform. We're going to go to all the other platforms in case Twitter's dead. We're not in charge anymore. We've been dethroned from our lofty blue check classes. We are no longer the Tranissary core of the Twitter regime. And so
another
all of a sudden,
Borzy term, Tranissary.
and so they get kicked off. Well, they voluntarily exit. They commit to their own exodus to this place called Mastodon. And I don't know much about it. I'm not making an account. I want Mastodon to turn into nothing more than an intellectual ghetto that you digitally lock your doors that when you drive by it. Because I saw on Twitter the other day this woman, this Asian lady who is just like, out of all my years of tweeting, I've never had any feedback for hateful comments or commentary, but I go on Mastodon, and she shows the image of her like Mastodon post about shitting on white male authors, about why it's important to read them so you know who rules over you. I mean, she's looking at the wrong demographic, but anyways.
Oh, wow. And so white male authors in the publishing industry are very prominent now.
And she gets banned, or that post gets deleted. And it says, well, this goes against community standards for hateful, racist, and sexist commentary. And it's just like, oh my gosh, Mastodon has a better sort of enforcement of the rules than Twitter does when it comes to bashing on old whitey. And so it's just like, this is going to turn into this containment zone ghetto for journalists to just, jerk each other's chain and enjoy themselves on their own Musk.
It'll be the liberal Gab, basically.
I can't wait. But
that's it. Well, Gab has no moderation. I only think like I don't think one person got banned off of Gab for like seriously like I think it was probably death threats.
I think it was doxing that got a few journos banned off Gab, but that's been about it.
Yeah, you can't like, which is a good policy, obviously. But these people, they like. Also, if you notice, if you spy on the anti-Fanuc accounts, I love saying that, by the way. Anti-Fanuc, because they probably have like one Italian guy at YouTube. No, they do have a clever way. Like they'll post images of Matt Walsh's address or Chaya Radek's Chaya Radek's journal's address. Like no, there has to obviously be. There was a time I remember when people would get doxxed, like friends of ours, and you would report them and they would do nothing, the Twitter Jannies. But now they're actually doing stuff. If you mass report people doxing you, then that's one thing. Like, this is why they're freaking out. Because I think it's a symbol of Elon. What I mean is that when Elon tweets memes about, like, I thought journalists were for freedom of speech, they're against it. To them, like, the most tepid, like, literal, like, 2015 Sargon of Akkad, like, talking point about so much for the tolerant left, to them, that's, like, essentially akin to the Austrian painter. Like, to them, that's who runs Twitter.
Well, yeah.
Elon Musk became a quote-unquote far-right figure overnight. So,
well, yeah, he's not going to be some far-right. He's not our guy, but in any way, shape, means, or form, right?
No, but they memed him into being, like, a far-right, like, he's the equivalent.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he's basically
but the other
Andrew
thing,
Torba,
too, is that he has power. He's independently wealthy, and this is a guy that's literally saying, well, imagine if the sides were reversed. And that has sent them into a frenzy, because it doesn't matter that Jack Posobiec or anyone else wants to tweet a 2015, classical liberal SJW owned, imagine if the sides were reversed. But all of a sudden, a guy with independent power, wealth, and a cult of personality, almost like Trump, who, all of a sudden.
Well, what else does he have, Prude? What else does he have, Matt? What else does he have? Besides, like, independent fuck you money. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't swear.
But... Oh, you're fine. We're 20 minutes in.
Yeah, we're 20 minutes in.
But I mean, besides,
what else does he have in terms of the U.S. government, though?
Well, what do you mean?
He has leverage. He's in his Starlink system and other systems.
Oh, I know. I mean, all the Starlink Ukraine stuff comes to mind. Not to mention sort of his relationship to NASA, the U.S. federal government, which is kind of why, like, they want. I mean, This reminds me a lot of the corporate rating strategy of the 1980s, to where you would go in, take these smaller companies or take even larger ones and try and make it off and make it your own industry and your own profit. I mean, it's literally how the Romneys got started back in the 1980s, is that you would raid smaller companies, or you would try and take over hostile takeover for other larger corporations.
Yeah, for Bain Capital, he was the garbage disposal of corporate America at one point in Bain Capital. Yeah.
Doing that exact same thing now, just for Twitter. And I mean, for $44 billion, what has he done? He's brought back the former president to the United States, and all of a sudden, a suspicious amount of cheese pizza has now suddenly disappeared off of there. And the thing that sticks out to me, and this is the greatest part about it, that Yoel Roth guy, the guy that was on the Twitter trust and safety team or whatever, he stepped down voluntarily. And like all of a sudden, like 90 some odd % of all that sort of stuff is gone off Twitter. And then we do a little bit of research, because our frog Twitter friends are autists and are intelligent. They decided to do a little background on him. What is his dissertation called?
Oh, God.
Data. And it talks about the importance of having that kind of material on Twitter, on Instagram, on other social media websites.
Because it's representation.
And it protects LGBT youth.
Oh my God.
And so now all of a sudden, that guy's gone, and like almost all of a sudden, hey, 90% of whatever has disappeared, and it's just like,
Yeah, but you got banned for posting Hyperborean edits. But that type of pizza-related activity, that's perfectly fine.
Well, the other question that immediately comes to mind is, well, how much of that's related to, say, the federal government doing sting operations and things like that?
There was another thing too about. Did you watch that video of that commander in? Was it Krasny Lyman, or was it? It was Izium. It was Izium. You saw that video where he talked about the organ harvesting?
Oh, No, but that sounds fucking awful.
Yeah, there is also stuff to do with cheese pizza related stuff, because as you know, the blue yellow country has been a dumping ground of the glowies for multiple years now, going way back to the early 90s, through various deals with oligarchs and Western powers and the UN and so forth. And apparently this commander found evidence of a, how can I say it for YouTube, involving kids, certain harvesting certain things, put it that way. And I don't know if it's true or not, of course, but then of course there's a lot of evidence that certain hospitals, when it came to babies doing this type of thing for various research institutions across Europe, and it's really, really satanic stuff. And but I think that when it comes to the West, though, I think there probably is. We know that YouTube. I remember years ago, nobody TM emailed me about this, that he discovered evidence on YouTube of this type of like blackmail rings involving pizza related activity, and how how YouTube had to crack down on all the the allies. Elsa, is that her name
The
from
Elsa
Frozen?
Gate stuff.
Yeah, Elsa Gate stuff. Like a lot of that has, you could, it's no stretch of the imagination without going into a total like conspiratoid, like above top secret godlike productions forum rant. You can easily imagine this stuff existing on these platforms, and because the fact that so much so many like journalists and government people use Twitter as their dirt sheet, it's like, it's no stretch of the imagination. And the fact that it seems everywhere, I'm sorry for this rant, Prue, but again, you're a foreign relations guy, so you know about this. Everywhere it seems that the UN and NATO goes, everywhere, Bosnia, Kosovo, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, where else? That other country in the Middle East, Yemen. It seems everywhere you go, years later, they publish articles about how there was a pizza-related activity and trafficking in these countries. I wonder. In the early 90s, this happened in the Balkan Wars. The Yugoslav Wars. The Balkan Wars were the much older in the, before World War One. No, the Yugoslavian Wars. They put in Bosnia, in Serbia. Yet it seems everywhere they go, it seems that the cheap pizza-related activity things are not far behind. In Somalia, they did it when America went in with the UN. Oh yeah, Rhodesia, of course. The Central African Basin is a hotbed of this type of activity. All those UN aid agencies and so forth. But sorry, but this happens virtually as well. This happens virtually, so maybe I'm just ranting right now. But remember the spasticus autisticus. Remember the hysteria of this sort of thing happening in Afghanistan under the Taliban. Yeah, the Taliban, they actually were the ones persecuting the Northern Alliance, or certain forces after the Northern Alliance that the Americans were training, that were doing the Baka you-know-what stuff.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, don't all of the issues over quote-unquote adoptions and the earthquake in Haiti in like 2010.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff happens quite
Bill
often.
Clinton gave them millions, but what happened to those millions? I know. Yeah. Haiti looks exactly like when the earthquake came. The hurricane. Sorry.
Well, speaking of random narratives, I don't typically follow Musk at all or on these things. I usually let the screenshots or the retweets come my way. But apparently he tweeted earlier today, the more and more over time, as we come hew closer to the truth, Twitter will earn the trust of the people. And some guy named Jerry Rig everything, he reviews technology and whatever. Did you tweet this or before or after deleting your Ferguson tweet this morning? Apparently had a Ferguson tweet. And he says, what conspiracy theory? And he's publishing the Obama's DOJ publication on the Michael Brown stuff about how, actually the narrative of hands up, don't shoot was BS. So what a good time. And he's posting the link to the Department of Justice's report on it. So I always have to enjoy crap like that in regards to this Twitter stuff. But I mean, the fact that, the landscape hasn't particularly changed much. I think like the terms of service has not changed in any way, major shape or form.
Apparently you can misgender someone now.
Oh, can we?
I wouldn't test it, but apparently they're easing up the rules about, that's why I say CWC.
Just in time for the recent NB event in Colorado.
Oh yeah, the
So
MB
maybe we
side.
can.
Yeah. But what's funny is that I had this there's this artist that did this post. It's one of these like non-binary people that of course have what actually skilled artist, illustrator, all that skill going to waste for propaganda, about like these people that don't believe in God anymore, but they have this sort of like I'll post about on Telegram. By the way, follow my Telegram, General Productions, if you want longer rants. Like how like the solidarity of like going in a there's like this funeral, and it's funny how they've sort of recaptured a sort of their own version of like a secular sacredness around activism. You know what I mean? Like around their identity activism. It's like that replaces sort of like praying for the souls of the victims. Now it's like, it's like the rest in power thing. You know what I mean? It's the same vibe.
Yeah.
Which I think it's really crazy how this sort of like multicultural, multi-gender, like, giga longhouse favela world of the Zoomers, they're not completely atheistic in their thinking, but yet that sort of counter-initiatory faith that they have is now geared towards activism. You want me to pull it up for you? I don't know if we should do it, actually. No, I don't know.
Well, the other thing that kind of threw me off, especially with that event and then with the World Cup happening, has been that we kind of encountered our own sort of transvaluation when it comes to what is deemed Western now. I mean, the rest in power thing comes to mind. The recent event in Colorado comes to mind, but also the World Cup, especially because Qatar, a strictly religious Muslim country, has pretty much told other individuals to none of the pride stuff, none of the gay flag stuff or whatever. And for all of a sudden, the idea that we're standing up for Western values and Western rights has been transvalued and inversely now to represent, well, we stand for sodomy. It's just a rather strange time and place to be in. And I mean, I appreciate Qatar doing exactly what they should be doing. Any serious country, I think, would not want that stuff to be in there or broadcast to millions of people. But that's the thing is that one of the things that I've written about on my Substack, and this one's behind the paywall for patrons that they should definitely take a look at, is that the process of like a lot of foreign policy discussion, at least for post hoc rationalizations, right, about ideology, is that it's about deterritorializing the natural culture and values of wherever they go. And then what's reterritorialized? It's women's schools, it's gay rights, it's liberation theology 2.0, basically, where the idea
it's
of
secular liberation theology.
Well, it is, which is the worst kind that you saw during, like, especially during like a lot of communist rule in South America in the 60s and 70s, with a little bit of like Catholic theology sprinkled on top of a veneer of this like sort of communistic liberation theology. But now it's just here we are. And I mean, this is sort of the eternal Trotskyite issue is that like watching neoconservatives like Bill Kristol and the others really go back to their Trotskyist roots and just talk about exactly these sort of things where it's like, well, the rainbow flags will fly and we're going to make sure it happens. Like it reminds me a lot of that Charles Krauthammer piece, like 2001, talking about Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, this is the chance, this is the unipolar moment where we can do so much more in this region. We can really create it for what it is.
Man, I used to read him in the National Post back in the day.
I mean, I
is it Krauthammer or Krauthammer?
Krauthammer.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always heard it pronounced on Fox News when he was still alive. But I look back on those articles and I think, well, like, that really is sort of where we are now, and this sort of goes back to Academic Agent's bit about ideology. It's just like, well, back then, you could wrap yourself around the flag, but now you've got to wrap yourself around rest in power and making sure that we have universal access to either infanticide or Lord knows what other kind of procedures.
Oh, universal access to a certain other form of commodity.
Yeah,
for them
and
as
I mean, FIFA is known for a lot of its corruption. I mean, even the Netflix documentary that's out there about like the former FIFA president and the corruption that played into that. That's actually I enjoyed that documentary. I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know. I'm not well versed.
I'm once again going for Brazil this year. So speaking of corruption.
I
now
mean,
that
that's
Italy's not playing. But no, I always go for Brazil because my mother's side, most of them still live in Brazil. But no, plus like I mean
I'm the eternal North FC. I usually root for England.
yeah. I mean it's such a shame that Italy got screwed over this year though. I hate it, man. But everyone usually Italians will go for Brazil or they won't go for any other Mediterranean country because it's like Italy, we're the best of the Mediterranean. So they won't even go for Greece, man. No way. You mean Italian rooting for Greece or Spain? You kidding me right now, bro? But they'll usually root for Italy, of course. I'm sorry, Brazil, if Italy's not in it. So no, but no, it is the thing about the corruption. We were talking. I'm losing my train of thought. You were mentioning about the post about the guy with the rainbow shirt, okay, in Qatar, and in liberation theology. I noticed that even among Marxist circles now, if you like creep their Twitter, they are sort of like, that's why they hate the tankies so much, because it's basically against their like glorious multicultural gay luxury space communism, where they'll embrace some kind of like weirdo Latin American third worldism that was never the case anyways. Or like rather an appropriation of it because it fits into their like essentially radical liberalism. That's what they are. They're just radical liberals. But because real Soviet communism is like literally too Eurocentric and too Slavic, too Eurasian centric for them. Because as you know, starting with Stalin and right up until Brezhnev, they basically had to capitulate to more nationalistic policies in order to keep the Union and the Soviet satellite states afloat. This is the thesis of people like Joel and I think even AA talked about it, where the Soviets had to adopt more more fascistic policies just because they didn't have any choice. So really, like, that's why they hate the Hazosphere. They hate those MAGA communist people. They hate Haas because they're basically like tankies, they're a version of it. And tankies are essentially fascist to them. You know what I mean? Like, so it's really weird, especially with the Russian thing right now, where they're having to like retcon and revise all of this huge history of the Soviet Union to fit into like, no, actually, our glorious multicultural, the favelaized, third worldist Marxism. That's the real Marxism, not the Soviet Union. No, because those Russian people, they're evil, they're fascist, they're Orthodox Christianity. So it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's really crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they have to go and revert to some sort of favela style of, well, we actually have to do, no Guatemalans, just vibes, and this is the thing. And I heard this on a podcast that the Distributist was on. He's like, it was like, it's a weird point in time to be where Stalin would be considered a reactionary, not for his radical politics, but because his communism was much more nationalist oriented and that he was homophobic. And that would be the only reason why they call him a reactionary, is simply because it's your orifice preference is, Dave likes to say it, that, my friends, is the real Call of Duty. And that's what you're going to fight and die for. And it's just that's where you're at. The other thing about it though too is that I think that where in this MAGA communism drama, which I find it to be one of the most oddly, I don't want to say it's astroturf, it's just because I don't follow these circles, so I don't know where this has been coming from. But I mean, this felt very out of the blue. It felt like really strange to see like mutuals interacting with these ridiculous ideas, where it's like, well, we're going to take the aspects of what make America great again, and we're going to just slapdash a little communism on it. And this just reeks of the trap house sort of like Bernie bro style of like leftism, where it was just like, well, we want to focus on class economic issues, but the simple fact of the matter is we're white. And so, I mean, this is the biggest reason why Bernie didn't have a lot of big outside appeals, because white millennials and Zoomers don't constitute the large voting majority of the Democratic Party anymore. Yeah. So a lot of these, so a lot of these like white guys that get like disaffected by the economic system, right? The only guy on the Dems that has remotely speaks on these issues is Tim Ryan, and he lost to JD Vance. And it really does tell you, like, this is the direction of where you're going. This is the bifurcation of the electoral demographics in the country. And so you guys are trying to spurt on this like gay leftist BS onto Make America Great Again, where the average MAGA voter is like 56, owns a trailer and a F-250, and has a plot of land out in the fucking middle of nowhere, and has a vacation home in the fucking, down in the, down in Florida.
Boca.
Or in Boca, right? And it's just like, oh, great. So this is exactly what we need.
A lot of Canadians in Boca, by the way.
It's like the Stone Toss comic. It was like, I support the working class, and it's like, well, glad to hear it, friend. And he just like looks,
just hands him a shovel. Yeah,
I mean that's where we're at, I think, right here.
Yeah, well, 2 points. One of my patrons asked me about MAGA communism in my episode that's coming out this Friday, and I think it was Fishy Frenzy in the chat. And by the way, people, you're not sneeding Prude any super chats. What are you doing? I'm gonna ignore the chat until you sneed super chats. No, but I can never ignore the chat. I think I'm kind of I get what they're doing, the MAGA communism thing, but it's like, it's not, I don't think it's going to work. And like, Fishy Frenzy's right. It's like, it is kind of extension of like the Nazball thing. But I mean, I have no beef with, like I said in my podcast that's coming out, like, if I want to, one day, maybe I'll talk to Haas one day, I'll do a content minded, I don't know. But I do, one point of contention that I neglected is that there were certain nationalistic policies in the Soviet Union, but I would be apt not to mention, it would be daft of me not to mention that Stalin and Brezhnev, wait, did Brezhnev come after Stalin or was it Khrushchev?
Khrushchev.
They downplayed linguistic differences upon these different satellite state nations, like, the Chechens and so forth. So there was an attempt to bury national differences, but in terms of the overall picture of communism, it was much less about the workers of the world uniting, and it was more about like sort of like implicit Eurasian union of these Soviet satellite states that were predicated. And of course, they did downplay linguistic differences, and they did do a bunch of G-word-iding of different ethnic groups within the Soviet Union, of course, not to neglect that. But it was, they later on had to adopt the policies that were essentially like their rivals in World War II, which is really funny. So, yeah, just a point of clarification. So,
well, yeah, I mean, that's sort of the thing that I think is important to keep in mind even now when you see sort of leftist drivel on Twitter about these issues, is that they want to embrace the concept of the new Soviet man in a way that is like, we're going to look like that Chobani commercial, and it's going to be like various shades of brown. It's going to be solar punk. This is my gay space automated luxury communism. And it's just like the usual convenient factor that comes with any of this discourse is like, you literally have to turn into the Chudjak that says millions must die. And they never want to admit that, even if that is sort of their like bloodthirsty, deepest, darkest, hide under the cover fantasy. But you see it all the time where it's just like, well, do you want to be the based Stalinite that, decided to take out a bunch of guys and focus on a new Soviet man that was primarily built upon like a Russo ethnos? But no, I mean, that's where we're at. And I mean, Twitter has turned into a wild space because of it, because there's now just been this bizarre overlap of these sort of ideas, or these, I would say, personalities, not really ideas, and just interacting with sort of the dissident spaces and things like that. I still find the constant mentioning or mentions of Tinksorg sometimes in on my timeline, and I'm just like, you don't like him because he never followed me back. So, sorry, what'd you say, Prude? I said he's a Marxist. What are we doing?
What's funny though? I think he knows, like, he kind of knows people hate him, like on in the scene, but it's kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't want to bash him too hard, but he did never follow me back, so I hate him for life. No, I'm kidding. I think he had the Gnostic piece recently. What was that about? People were
the everything new I don't Gnostics. Like is Gnosticism. Let's just go look it up.
But I would say that there, when you were saying there's an amalgamation of ideas. And Michael Smith mentioned Giga Longhouse Vel. It's funny because one of the best tweets I ever came across. It's preserved because I believe his account gets nuked every month.
From
Julius.
neo-paganism to cryptocurrency cults, the internet today is full of strange new quasi-faiths.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I'll
Well,
have to
I
read
mean,
this later. Maybe we'll review it.
he's got a point. Yeah, he's got a
Well, yeah,
little bit of
I
a
wouldn't
point.
I wouldn't disregard it either. I mean,
Eric
there's a lot
Vogelin,
of
he's Vogelin posting.
yeah. I mean, what the artistic stuff in here is pretty interesting.
But I
But
would say
yeah,
that the greatest tweet I ever came across was from Julius. It was right after the Queen died, where he said, like, the curse of rejecting European civilization and all the gifts we've given you is basically the eternal one world giga longhouse favela. It's like, oh my god. Because that's what I mean. I think that if you're like a third world Marxist, you have a huge uphill battle of recognizing that all of your theory came from Slavs and French people and Germans and maybe a little bit of Italians. You know what I mean? So you have this huge uphill battle in front of you to say that no, actually, this African tribe or this South American thinker retconned this form of communism. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like people like us, on the right.
they're just speed
Yeah.
running Frantz Fanon's Wretched of the Earth. I mean, in real time, you watch it in Twitter.
And Fanon was great. He was actually a decent thinker. He was a good thinker. There's certain parts of Fanon that you should read, but he was a Sartrean, so you know what I mean. Like, again, yeah.
Okay. Well, this will be fun. Heath asks, "I'm kind of new. What's this longhouse thing?"
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Someone goes, "Heath is a Fed." Oh boy. Well, I mean, literally, I would recommend a wonderful book that came out in 2018 called Bronze Age Mindset.
Bronze
That'll
Age
just
Mindset.
Tell you exactly what you need to know there.
Well, essentially, the longhouse is like the ancient matrilineal, basically, longhouse mothers.
Bantu matriarchy.
Bantu matriarchy, yeah. And also in, I believe, certain tribes in North America as well. Basically, the longhouse design of the village, where the village elder women basically destroyed the vitality of their young male children, where they would sort of police them. It was really the first biopolitics when you think of it. It was like a matrilineal matriarchy rule before advanced patriarchal civilization took hold. And essentially, the longhouse is a metaphor that BAP uses for like this return to mother goddess worship, the Venus of Wollendorf sort of
return to womb.
Yeah, New Gloff, the third worldist, be like, Tokmobo Lafuti is totally original, actually. Yeah. Or a Julius Nairi. That's their big, that's the guy they worship.
I mean, this is the thing that also comes to mind is that it has that sort of weird, like when they do it, they try to do the inverse James Baldwin, where it's like a lot of self-hating, white individuals will just like be like, well, actually, no, like our European style communism shall be inherited by like our immigrant communities and our African brothers, and then truly we can have like the fully automated, diverse, gay luxury space communism. And it's just it's always fun to see run through by Twitter. But I mean, to maybe get back,
ever read Giovanni's Room, by the way?
To get back towards maybe Twitter itself, though, I think that it does illustrate that Twitter is full of these really nascent ecosystems. And I think that you have a very good point about cycles, because every 6 months to a year, I've noticed that there's always a conversation about, well, like, oh, the right-wing Twitter sphere is dead. The E-right is going through it's sort of a drought in content or ideas. There's no more thought leaders or whatever. And I always notice two things. One, it's usually like new posters that are making these quips and commentaries, or sort of well-established, not so anonymous friends of the area or fellow travelers. And I find it to be a particularly interesting thing, because Twitter, I think, you're right, Gio, it is cyclical. There are ebbs and flows. There are new accounts. There are new posters. There are returns of people that always come back. And there are people that are rising to make their way and find themselves to be established in a little niche. And I find that to be rather accurate. And I think what Elon's sort of Twitter takeover, I don't think it, like, again, it's not, this is not your
People are
gateway
still going to
to
get banned for
world.
posting gamer words. That's always going to happen.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
it's not, the things that are transgressive and part of the meme magic that started from very beginning, it's not disappearing anytime soon, and that stuff's definitely gonna stay. But the thing that has been rather eternal, or dare I say perennial, about sort of the Twitter space and anon sphere, whether it goes back to LiveJournal or all the way to
Hmm.
today, is that it's still the best opportunity to have platformed, or to platform ideas in which can eventually be spread in the media, like through other forms of computer mediated
Yeah.
communication, not just Twitter. Because I mean, it's very bizarre when you saw the whole say what you will about like Mark Cernovich or Shoe on Head, but both of them had done sort of that Balsaniega thread about
Oh,
that god awful, creepy child exploitation advertisements. And
yeah.
all of a sudden, like the next day, who's talking about it on mainstream television on the most watched news program on cable news? It's Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
People always say that Twitter is not real life, but I will always tell you that today's tweets and threads will be tomorrow's news chyrons until the end of time,
Yeah.
until
Oh, yeah.
Twitter dies. It's
Yeah,
not going to
exactly.
disappear.
And there will be an equivalent, but it really, I mean, there wouldn't, I can't think of another equivalent. I think that apparently there's also rumors that Elon wants to go after YouTube now in terms of video monetization. But
Yeah, he
imagine if,
does want to monetize content creation on Twitter.
yeah, imagine that though. He like basically hits a salvo at Sweet Susan. Um,
I mean, if he
uh,
wants to go to war with Google, I mean, especially YouTube, which is the most watched video platform. I mean,
in the
YouTube
world,
has the most hours consumed video platform on Earth, on the world ever. This is why, alt tech is great and it's a great place to go to in case you do get banned from here. But you really do need to still be on YouTube and
yeah,
Twitter and all the other
hundred
mainstream
percent.
places. Like, I get it. Like, current tech sucks. They're not our guys, they're not our friends or whatever. But at the end of the day, this is where you still get the most access to individuals and the most access to eyes and ears. And the second video platform after this is what? Daily or Twitch, and then maybe Daily Motion and
Yeah,
Vimeo. Or
Odyssey's
Rumble
getting up
now.
there.
Rumble and Odyssey are up there too now, and thank
Yeah,
God for that. But I mean, I'm talking about like worldwide metrics. I mean, YouTube is still by far that one. I
yeah, the
mean, and
number
to take a
one.
swing at Susan and say maybe that way, hey, we're gonna try and find a way to monetize and get content creators to come on Twitter. I mean, that would be insane. Like, imagine someone like Zurius or whatever managing to make like a small bit of money on the side doing,
Yeah,
his music video edits the way that he does on Twitter. I mean, that'd
or
be
Jinx.
insane.
Imagine if Jinx comes back and monetizes those videos.
Yeah, I mean, but it is indeed cyclical, and Spasticus Autisticus makes the point. Black-pilled frogs make base posts. Base
Yeah,
posts make white-pilled frogs. White-pilled frogs post cringe. Cringe posts make black-pilled frogs. I
or
mean,
post Cole. Yeah,
many such cases.
but no, but I think that it is funny how I've like, okay, I black pilled that one time and it made me reevaluate my position on the right. But I don't know how I managed to avoid that cycle. Someone has told me, he's like, yeah, but Gio, you post like you're an anon. I go, maybe that's not very good, but um, no, I think that it is true. There's always like face lords, and there's always like newer accounts that just want to shit on everybody and everything. And I think that you do need a recognition that there's serious flaws within the right that need to be addressed. But that being said, I think that the avant-garde of the whole thing is never going to truly go away. There's always going to be an energy there, whether it's on Twitter or anywhere else. But what's interesting is that I think that when you look at the whole picture, I've always come back to the debate of, yes, we know that this is sort of alienating, and that the fact that most of us probably, there are people that we don't even know their like real names and faces that probably care more about us than people around us, right? Or we grew up with. And yes, it's bad, and the modern condition does inflict this upon you. But at the same time, I feel that if the internet presents you unique opportunities to really change things that we're seeing in real life, I believe that what do they call it? The fashion company Balaclava. No, that's not
The recent one,
balaclava.
the Balsaniega or whatever.
Bosniaga, yeah. Like you saw, like they went into damage control, right? Um, if you are given these tools, then sometimes you just have to ride the tiger, in my opinion. As much as you know that it's not helping people, and that there are a lot of people in a lot of like very desperate psychic pain, including everyone that is they're listening to us. Balenciaga, thank you, my friends.
Thank you
Yeah,
guys.
but I think that it's how do we cope with the sort of game that we're playing, the serious playing, to quote Alan Watts. How do we cope with it? I feel is always the question we come back to on this show and elsewhere. And it's I hope for the best. And now that Elon, I think, is probably waging war. Like, here's the thing. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the whole billionaire thing. Well, we have to get to Trump as well.
The other thing
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
I wanted to bring
I
up, though.
talk too much. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good, Gio. You're good. No, the one thing about all what you had just mentioned, I think, is a good point about like psychic pain, because the thing is that Twitter is the ultimate, I think, test of spiritual warfare in a lot of ways. Like, you get to choose who you follow, you get to choose what you see, you get to choose who you interact with. Like, there is a dealer's choice, right? And you're the dealer, and who knows what cards you're going to decide to pull and see every time that you decide to draw at the table. And so, it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing in the way that you can expose yourself to some of the worst aspects of the human condition, or to some of the best. And I think that you do have a point where you talk about how, well, yeah, there are probably some people online that probably may care about you more, or that you may develop friendships and such that are going to be really helpful in that lens to what you do in your life. But at the same time, right, and this has been the balance I've been trying to strike in this project about digital deracination throughout 2022, is that most of our guys in this like Twitter sphere and on the E-right are well-adjusted people that are not terminally online.
Well, I am terminally online. I'm not well adjusted, but
Okay,
most people.
Then maybe you're the person that maybe this project speaks out to. But I mean, I think about like that whole the Ashley Colby bit a while back, where Martin was just like, I'm married with children, or like even people in our circles where it's just like Radical Liberation or AA or Charlotte, whatever. These people are usually either married with kids, or they're pretty well off and successful in whatever their projects are doing, and are getting an education. And there are a lot of people that I think it's just like, that's good, but at the same time we can be exposed to some of the worst stuff out there that I think is just it's rough.
I feel like being well adjusted is sort of like a detriment in some ways. What do I mean by that? Well, go ahead, Prue. Go. Sorry.
No, go on, because you might. I think you're adding into what I'm thinking about. So
yeah, like in other words, you can't really. I'm not casting shade at anybody. I think it's good. I mean, these are things that I want one day, a GF. But I think that in some ways, if you do have like a normal, well-adjusted life, if you have a wife and kids and all that, in some ways, it's hard to say because I don't want to insult anybody. You know what I mean? Because like some people like Radlib are friends, and Charlie, and I think even Closington, is he married or?
Yeah, he's engaged.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So, or Josh Hamm over here.
Yeah.
But I think that in some ways, as much as it's good to like give like especially younger guys advice, and I feel like in some ways you really can't speak to like the particular form of alienation that young men feel, or even young women, if you're like a well-adjusted woman poster, if you're like, and here's the thing, I'm friends with a lot of them, like, Alex Kashuda, Helen of Roy, like, you know what I mean? But I feel that in some ways, like, for example, like me, the reason that people look to me is like, well, you're one of us, Gio. I go, yeah, maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, it's a bad thing in that you can commiserate, and misery loves company, and you could sort of like mutually crab bucket each other. But it's a good thing in that you can understand what someone's going through because you yourself have gone through it. And I feel like if you're a millennial who has a wife and kids, you don't like really sort of know the experience of like a lot of millennials. You know what I mean? Like, it's an unfortunate fact. Not to say that your advice is useless, but I'm saying that it's easy to sort of turn your mind off from the reality of what these, in my experience, young men are facing, because you can go back to that sort of environment where you have these life accomplishments and these loves in your life that are very difficult for a lot of men. So it's sort of like when you're in the trenches, it's sort of like you're a weekend warrior when it comes to, not to say that like they're, because eventually one day if I ever have a GF, maybe I'll think differently of this, but I feel like, it's good to have people who are well adjusted. Oh, Prude. Oh, I think his power went off. Can you guys still hear me? Is that how it works? StreamYards. Are you guys, are we still live? Oh my God. I think his power went out. His power goes out. Okay. So, but before Prude gets back, I think that it's good that, these older, more well-adjusted people are around, but at the same time, I feel like when it comes to empathizing with people that are in these situations who are neets and incels and so forth and femcels, then it's sort of difficult because that becomes like, okay, I can go back to my life. So that's my big point. Not to cast shade on people that do have, but I think that there is something to be said of someone who's actually in it with you. I am very much in it with you. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't give, and I'm not saying that it gives me more authenticity, because if I had a different perspective, if I did have a wife and kids, then, it'd be different. But I feel that I know because I'm in it rather than I know because I was in it. Now I have something else. You know what I mean? So what do you mean, Gloff? You don't quite agree with me. You know what, Gloff? I'm going to ban you right now from...
No,
I'm
you're
kidding,
not.
Gloff. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Gloff. No, but tell me in the comment why you disagree. No, but I'm just saying that I feel like a lot of people who are like well-adjusted, who do have a wife and kids, they can sort of like give a sort of like, how shall I say it? They can give a sort of like lip service to these experiences, but when it comes down to it, you have an out, you have an escape. You don't, you can't galvanize the proletariat. So Geo-Stalin moment.
Well, doesn't this go back to sort of? This is about
Yeah.
roles and what people play. I mean, in sort of like in traditionalist Christianity, right? You do get these sort of, well, you really do have two choices. You have the single life or the married life,
Yeah.
and you do have a calling to either or. And I do think that tends to be the case for the internet politics and things like that and such. As a non-married man myself, I do feel more inclined to be well out here and sort of
Yeah, but
going
you're
through.
fake, Sal. Prude, you're fake, Sal.
Well, I've never admitted to being,
I'm
never
kidding.
admitted to being one either. So I mean,
no, I'm kidding. I'm just joking. No, but that's what I mean. You're open about the fact that you've had relationships and you've had
well, I mean,
sexual trysts.
Well, isn't this the point though in regards to being? I think to some degree you do need some degree of authenticity when you can. I mean, I serve a much different role, I think, in any form of discourse that I have or to go out than say you do, right? In that regard, or even our friends who are truly anonymous, like Martin, or I mean, they have a way different purpose in the role for it. Like Martin gets to say all of the stuff that makes me regret ever showing my face.
Yeah.
Like, and I just, and I love his work, and I tell people to go follow him all the bloody time. It's about roles, it's about stratification, and it goes into that, into all of these things that we do on Twitter. I mean, it's cool that I get to write about things that, get noticed by larger accounts. And I think that's good that I can take the ideas from these truly, well-versed anon guys like Athenian Stranger or Martin or whoever, and put them and translate them into a way that can help be out there. That way, in case these dudes ever get banned for like the 38th time, bam, we can throw them out there and get that going for it. Because I do think that in a lot of ways, I do see it being that, well, Twitter serves a purpose even on our own side, where we all have different classes. It's almost as if, and I don't want to compare things to video games because it's an oversimplification, but like it's a loadout system. Like, what are you gonna be, Geo? What are you gonna be, Prude? What are you gonna do when it comes to your way of like casting out sort of the evil that is out there and talking about the things that truly matter? And believe it or not, these people do read our shit. I mean, whether you've been published, Geo, in other places, or when people say like, "Oh yeah, I've read Spandrel," and it's like, dude, you used to work in the White House.
Followed by Nathan Sipley yesterday. Ethan Sipley. Can't believe it. My hero. I want to be Ethan Sipley one day. Prude, you there, bro?
Yeah, no, I'm here. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think as he's getting into the whole, maybe I should. I don't want to ruin it for him, but he is an inspiration to me because he went from around my weight to being a cut Chad. So maybe I should DM him.
Yeah, I mean your latest what's the word I'm looking for? Like what's the word? He is the ultimate sort of like transformational kind of guy from My Name is Earl, playing the stereotypical fat dumbass to dude looks like he could kill you with just like his hand, like his thumb. I mean, it's
yeah. You know what's funny? He had this one role where he started getting jacked, where there's a bunch of comments too. I want to read it. Pretty funny. Where as much as I don't like House, because my parents used to watch that show. There was a series. It only lasted a few seasons with the guy that played House. What's his name? God, I forget. House.
Hugh Laurie,
yeah, where he was a doctor that got ousted, but like he was like solving this crime, and Ethan Sipley was like his jacked like private military guy, and he played such a great role, man. It was amazing. But look at this. Gloff, I'm not angry at you. I'm just joking. But Josh, our good friend Joshua Ham had a good comment. But before that, Cine Animations, I tried Gio's advice to go for a wholesome 5 out of 10 Aspie girl. Turns out those tend to suffer from pretty severe Peter Pan syndrome. Listen, yes, a lot of them suffer from Peter Pan syndrome, but you can sort of grow out of it together, I feel, if you give her enough right experiences and guidance. So, Cine, keep on the Aspie 5 out of 10 girl. Remember the Chinese proverb, a homely looking wife is an asset in the home. And, also Joshua Ham has a great comment here. I don't think empathy is what NEETs or incels need. What these people need is to take ownership of their life. Oh, come on. Look, Joshua the boomer posting here.
I mean, is he wrong? Is he wrong? I mean, consider the fact. Well, sure. But I mean, consider the fact that there are accounts out there like "Dad, how do I?" or more or less just fatherly advice, or tell your sons this. Like, does it not speak to the fact that things have gotten so bad in our respective countries, whether it's absentee fathers, the abdication of parental responsibility, and go play video games or have their babies look at an iPad while they're like going grocery shopping, that men now more than ever have become so dispossessed and so despondent that not only do we have these new quasi-faiths, as Malcolm points out, but we also have this desire for parasocial fatherhood relations. And I mean, whether it's Don the Pleb or even people like ourselves, where people are asking us for advice, and it's just like, I get that people are in need of some kind of father figure, but there needs to be the direct ownership of the fact that, like, listen, buddy, I can't be that guy. I can't be your dad. I can tell you the things, what to do or what not to do. And I tell people that all the time, like, listen, man, I got 2 liberal arts degrees. Like, I can't give you the world's best advice, but here's what I've done to be successful. Here are the things that I kind of regret, and that's important. But we should, and to go back to even Cine's point, like, there is sort of this failure to launch, perpetually infantilized nature. I hate the word adulting. I hate that like older millennials have like taken on this idea, like, I'm doing my taxes, I have a car payment, I'm an adult, and it's like, no, like, you're a regular fucking human being. Or Friendsgiving, as Paul Fahrenheit pointed out. No, you're just single and you're lonely and you listen to a podcast that tells you that you're somewhat attracted to Great Danes. You've got a problem. You need to fucking admit it. But somehow,
except for listening to our podcast.
Well, we don't talk about, white women and dogs. We're fine. So it's just like, that's where we're at. And so I think Joshua's got a point.
Yeah, but so take ownership of their lives. Passive victimhood doesn't help anybody, but the elders should be mentioning them, mentoring them. No, here's the thing. What I mean by empathy is, I mean that there's like lamenting over misery, which I mean I tend to do, and then there's realizing that, if you're in the same situation, you can sort of, how shall I say it? You can sort of say that you're not alone. That's a really big thing, that your condition is actually shockingly probably more normal than you'd like to believe. It's just that we live in the world of like boomer expectations that don't really exist anymore. And I feel that Zoomers are going to have to learn this lesson if they do want to have a wife and kids. Like, I posted this about on Telegram this rant about people like marrying for love instead of other things. Like, here's the thing. I think that people will probably in the future take the Varg pill of like, a state of like semi-happy poverty, because every time there is massive economic downturns, these things just happen naturally. It's just that the problem being is that we're so disconnected from our instincts that it would really take a generation of hardship to be like, maybe I don't have the same luxuries that my parents did. And maybe if I do want to find a significant other and have a family, that these things, there's ways to do it, and there's no shame in it. There's no shame in like, how shall I say it? People are going to have to lower their expectations economically in the future. Just put it that way. Gio just wants people to acknowledge that hoflation is real. Yeah, it's true, man. It is very true.
Yeah, just look at that Caroline Ellison chick.
Oh God, like that's what I mean. Like it's like it's going to take like people recognizing that, especially young women, they're gonna be most affected in my opinion. They're gonna like have their and yes I know this is just bitter incel posting, but they're going to be most effective because they're going to take a massive hit in terms of their expectations if they truly want like a future. You know what I mean? So
well, I think about Zoomer women in this regard because they now have a model of what that path takes them down, and it's older millennial women who are getting closer and closer to 40 and are kind of realizing that they've been lied to or that they're alone, and like this is what they've got going for them. Like, I mean, we talked about the femcell very early on in the show, but I mean, that is the preeminent mental health crisis of the future that is going to hit us in a social and psychological and sexual at level that I don't think anyone's prepared for. Like, it's going to be a 2008 moment, but for men, genuine human relations, and particularly men.
It'll be like the how, not a genetic, but it'll be like a, how should you call it? Psychic Hiroshima. There you go.
A psychic Hiroshima. It'll be a psychosexual
Hiroshima
bottleneck.
Yeah, and that was the Virilio term, the genetic Hiroshima. But that's also happening to Zoomer women. So
I mean Zoomer men too. I mean it's been happening to men all the time. I mean, there's a reason why that Tucker documentary, The End of Men, is as important as it is, to where they're like, oh yeah, maybe by 2045 things are going to get so bad that like assisted, fertility treatments is going to be just like the social norm, which is absolutely insane. That's where we're at. And I think that that's sort of the coming hard times of like, well, people who decided to abdicate for that, either in the name of career or what have you. I mean, women more especially. It's just it definitely comes to mind.
It's like certain breeds of factory farmed pigs where they grow them so large that they can't like mate naturally, that they need to be artificially inseminated to have sows. What do they call baby pigs? What do they call them?
I think they're called sows.
Yeah, but it'll be like that where we're sort of like, where we've succumbed to so much genetic and environmental damage piglets, yeah, that we've succumbed to so much genetic and piglets. Yeah, how did I forget that, piglets? But it'll
because you usually swap out the P for another letter.
Oh boy. No, but like it'll be like where we're so disconnected from the sort of original state that, or like the only way to like imagine a future like a children of men thing where we're only able to reproduce through artificial means. That's like totally scary. That's wow. That's
like end of the species level kind of.
Yeah. But maybe it'll be based at Chad Hyperborean eugenics. Who knows? No, I'm kidding. No, we won't be the ones determining that, will we? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Millions. I'm telling you, millions. No, but I joke. But I think that
Well, that's coming whether we like it or not. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
meme as you will, as many people do. I've been enjoying the recent resurgence of chud memes on
Yeah.
Twitter, because since Elon and since this war had started, it's just been it's been an interesting time to say the
Yeah.
least for the chud. But
But don't you feel that, like, with the internet, we can sort of feel like an oncoming apocalypse or an oncoming change of order? It seems that, like, we meme about it, but that's just like to mask um how people feel. That, like, okay, the millions upon millions, right? Okay, well, imagine if there is a mass genetic bottleneck. Now, will it be the norms of this society? And here's I listen, I don't advocate for anything, just to be clear. Okay, I'm not saying I advocate for a lot of these ideas, but I'm just saying that, okay, if you do have a situation where people can only reproduce in terms of artificial intervention, now who's going to determine that? Will it be the social norms of today or the social norms of based world or something far much worse? You know what I mean? Like, think of it that way. Who will it be? Which civilization will get to that lifeboat of genetic damage creating a future children of men scenario? Yeah, chud times require chud solutions. No, but that's what I mean. Like, you have to think of it. If it's the social norms of now, the Giga Longhouse favela will be created in real time. It will be they will have their solar punk dystopia, and it will be really sounds like JF Karapi's revolutionary phenotype. I don't know about that. I haven't researched much into his idea, but I'm just saying that if we do have a situation where birth rates are plummeting, sperm rates are plummeting, it's like you have to sort of think about these things on a civilizational level. Being on Twitter is not only seeing the iceberg coming, but also having the rest of the Titanic calling you a racist incel. You're racist and an incel for noticing. So no, but I'm saying not to say that this will happen. Of course, I hope it won't. I hope it won't. I'm just saying that we have a chance to reverse a lot of these trends. We have a chance to say maybe putting BPAs and everything is not a good idea. Maybe flushing birth control down the drain isn't a good idea. Maybe other things that I can't mention on YouTube is not a good idea. You know what I mean? Like, I feel that as much as and this is something Byung-Chul Han talked about, is that as much as we have an awareness of information, it seems that people are more confused and, like, lacking of agency or agency, but also the ability to act upon information, like, more than ever. That's the eternal paradox, which I think in media theory is something that shouldn't be overlooked. You know what I mean? Like, and the time that we have access to all this information is the time that we seem to feel like we have no agency whatsoever, that we can't prevent a future children of men scenario. And if that scenario comes, will it be your base Hyperborean Giga Chads, or will it be Taylor Lorenz and the coalition of the willing, if you will?
Well, I'm certainly hoping the guys that tan their balls are the ones that are going to, inherit the earth.
Exactly.
But,
I hope we will write sires an army of children like Genghis Khan.
I mean, the future 2,000 years from now is like everyone can trace their lineage back to, a certain point in time where William Wheelwright and his, like, men had conquered, America, and we took the step for the white man. But, only in our dreams, maybe this one day could happen. But the other thing about Twitter that I think is important for people to realize when we talk about Musk's takeover is like, oh, $44 billion to shitpost. No, I mean, this company has only spurred a profit maybe 3 or 4 quarters in its entire existence.
Yeah, pretty much.
Twitter's value is not in its financial aspect. Twitter's value is for the information control and what you can put out there. And our friend Charles Haywood had recently done a little bit of number crunching. So I have his thread unrolled here. This is from the 21st of November.
Oh, okay.
So earlier this week. It says, I will now examine Twitter's past financials to predict the future from them. I conclude that the criticism of Elon Musk is bizarrely off base because Musk has overnight changed Twitter's net profit margin from negative 20% to approximately 28%.
That's amazing. Wow.
This guy knows what he's doing. Like, say what you will about his financial manipulation of the markets with using memes and shit coins to help hide off with Tesla or subsidies. If you're a captain of industry and you're taking advantage of every rule that's with you, I'm not playing defense or apologia for billionaires, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
I think
the billionaires thing. Yeah.
I mean, he's
yeah.
not, I don't think he's a moron. But anyways, he says, using annualized percentages based on Twitter's most recent quarterly filings, period ending 6/30/22, they're freely available in the SEC. Annual revenues about $4.5 billion. R&D, sales, marketing, general, administrative. These are roughly 37, 26, 25, and 12% of major expenses accordingly. According to the company, cash expenses for most of the revenue are essentially infrastructure, hardware, and third-party servers, with some employee costs, namely operation teams. Employee costs includes those related to stock and options grants, non-cash expenses. R&D expenses, on the other hand, primarily consist of personnel-related costs. The same is explicitly true of sales and marketing and other general administrative. In other words, the vast majority of 63% of Twitter's expenses are personnel costs. If we assume primarily is 80% and that 20% cost of revenue is also personnel costs, 58% of Twitter's total costs are personnel costs. So when Musk took over, Twitter had 7,500 employees. Let's guess 70% of those have left. Leaving aside pay differentials, that suggests that Twitter's expenses have likely permanently dropped 41% overnight. That means the new annualized projected profit is $1.3 billion. This means Twitter's net margin going forward is about 28%. By way of comparison, Apple and Google both maintain their net margins in the 22 to 25% range. In other words, Twitter is now more profitable than those companies. Your mileage may vary, as this is somewhat of a simplification, but it shows why Musk can win by just firing worthless losers. Yeah, sure, maybe leftist pressure will keep some advertisers away, but I doubt it. For when the next current thing arrives, they'll be back. But when you change from a negative profit margin to a margin that's the envy of the tech world, you have a lot of room to screw up. I will also note that it is ignorant to say that Musk has loaded the company on debt. The debt equity ratio of the company is roughly 0.3 to 1, while many deals alone are at 1.3 or 9 times as much debt. Sure, he has to make
Facebook is
payments.
More than that, by the way.
It's why. And I mean, Mr. Zuckerberg has decided to step down. But it does really illustrate to me, I think, of just what kind of crazy stuff that we're dealing with here.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. But apparently Raging Manjo, don't say that in the chat of Dave. Why not play defense for billionaires? I have this crazy theory, okay? Now, I know that I give Moldvin a lot of flack, but I noticed like a lot of these Marxoids, like a lot of these left ironists, they're like, oh my God, you're playing defense for billionaires, blah, blah, blah. Like there's this one tweet. Let me see if I could find it if I screen capped it, because I wanted to do like a little rant on it. But here's a crazy idea, okay? Don't take my word for it, because I haven't like truly formulated my thoughts around it. But it's like people that say like you're just playing defense for billionaires or whatever. Like, first of all, if this is the sort of lot that if we're being dealt with this hand, right, where we basically need billionaires to go to war for us, then I don't see a problem with that, in my opinion. As much as I am more sympathetic to like socialistic type of policies, and as much as I'm sympathetic to certain ideas that are, I guess you could say, to position or whatever, I think that it is something to be said that if a guy is like has enough like independent wealth and he wants to fight for us, then who knows? And not that Elon Musk wants to fight for us. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that in terms of like a temporary arrangement, if you have a billionaire who is jamming up enough, like who's monkey spoking the system enough, then it's like, I don't see a problem with that. I don't see the problem with like rich people going to war with each other. I mean, yeah, we could probably lose in the end, but you see these threads of people saying that, how dare you, that you're hypocrites, you're really just supporting a billionaire that you think is going to fight for you, blah, blah, blah. Like I don't see a problem with that, in my opinion. There is problems with it. I'm not going to say that there isn't problems with it, but I'm just saying that, there's people... Yeah,
well,
like people saying it's fascism and all this crap,
of spokes right into the bicycle wheel.
Yeah,
Elon Musk just a few earlier today, about 40 minutes ago, Should Twitter offer a general amnesty to suspended accounts provided that they have not broken the law or engaged in egregious spam? Yes or no? 590,367 votes. Oh no, over 600,000 votes as I read this tweet out. 74.5% say yes. Only 25.5% say no. So tweets up for 24 hours, folks. I'm gonna go link this in the chat. So
link it. Yeah.
Vox Populi, Vox Day. Let's go.
That was another big thing too, is that they said that oh my God, how dare you vote on free? It's like they let a Twitter vote determine that the letting
we
Donald
had a
Trump
much
back
more
on Twitter.
transparent democracy than we ever did here in the United States earlier this month.
Yeah. But the ban thing is interesting. The reason that this vote is crushing it is because even people on the left feel that they've been, unjustifiably banned, right? But usually it's because of doxing or whatever. But I'm just saying that in a world where we live in the corporatocracy, then I feel like if billionaires go to war with each other, it's A, going to happen anyways, and B, it's like, it's the whole like Theo Bucks thing, you know what I mean? It's like, there is problems with it. I don't want to live in a world like that where, corporations decide everything, of course. But I'm saying that, there could be a lot worse things happening. Not to say that Elon is our guy or anything, but I think if you can like sufficiently piss one of these like more dissident billionaires off to the point where like the rest of the cabal is like, we don't like you anymore, then it's like you can gear someone's anger through like anonymous shit posting pretty effectively, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, say what you want about like normie cons or not like particularly conservative, like Cat Turd or whatever. The fact that Elon is basically going to like freaking Cat Turd for his opinion on what to do with Twitter, like that's pretty, like our enemies are freaking out for a reason. Our enemies are going absolutely apoplectic for a reason. You know what I mean? Like it's.
I mean, he's literally just pulled out the belt and he's gone to town, more or less, on the very sort of managing. I mean, the fact that he has replied to Jonathan Greenblatt saying "Stop defaming me" is a well, I'll try and carefully go around this because we're on YouTube, but it's just like
Charlemagne. We do live in that world. That's the point. We do live in that world. I wish it was different, but I'm saying that pragmatically in terms of temporary policy, it's like we have to deal with the conditions we're given. We do exist on the graces of our enemies in a lot of these platforms. It's just that.
Well, I think any person on Twitter or even YouTube recognizes that it can be some innocuous BS that knocks you off there. I mean, even we do know that, and I should give Charlemagne a wrench.
You should give me a wrench. No, but I'm just saying that, like, for example, I don't agree with Molebug when he says that we should just wait for the billionaires to become based. It's not going to happen. But I'm saying that if you can strategically position through your own meme magic enough of disaffected rich people to be like, what, the system doesn't benefit me either, then it's like, what's the point? I don't see it. Like, in terms of a temporary strategy, it's like it's basic survival, in my opinion. Like, supporting Elon Musk is just basically survival for the time being. You know what I mean? Like that. I mean, not that we can give him like actual support. I'm just saying that the fact that he's pissing off the libs is probably, as much as it's a Pyrrhic victory, I'm trying to word my words carefully here, but I'm just saying that, the whole, like, these Marxists are like, you're letting billionaires defend you. This isn't real free speech. It's like, fuck off. It is. Like, it.
This is basically, I mean, the fact that Musk is kind of doing this, I don't want to say it's like noblesse oblige, but it's just,
of course.
The fact that he's even willing to listen to what the other side has to say. I feel like I'm in 2015 sort of talking like this, but I mean, what a fucking step in the right direction. Holy crap, like we're talking about what's the word I'm looking for? We're talking about the fact that this guy's listening to someone called Cat Turd, and this big sort of conservative ink posting account type deal where they just make shit posts and things like that. I mean, I'm kind of glad that this is moving in the direction that it is. And I think Im has a good point, is that we shouldn't let Marxists be framing this conversation.
True.
That's where we're at. Is that I don't want to. For all I have right now is that I have a guy that knows how to run a company that has decided to fire over 50% of the staff there, to where I literally had to do the "if you close your eyes" meme, where all the women disappeared and it's just white guys and Indians running this place. He's gone more or less from dark horse to literally the embodiment of clear them out, and I'm okay with that. The fact is that we've gotten Jannies are gone. Most of Twitter's operating costs are gone in terms of personnel, as Charles Haywood pointed out.
And it seems that doxing rules are
shape.
Yeah, and it seems that rules are being applied fairly. The fact that anti-Fanuc accounts are getting hit too.
So good.
Yeah.
I've got nothing that I really need to worry about right now. I haven't done anything too extreme that I think is going to get me banned. I still know that the rules exist about how you don't quote tweet shit libs, you screen cap, and then you do what you need to do. And I think that that's the important part here. I could care two shits right now about his personality the same way that I can give two shits about Trump and his lack of any sort of degeneracy and things like that. I mean, if you wanted to support him, and I think that this is a point that Charlemagne points out, if you want to support this, I mean, you can make Twitter profitable, dare I say. You can pay for the blue check mark. Although if you pay for it, has 17th century shite poster changed his bio? Is the blue check mark still the modern day mark of Cain when I can buy it for $8?
I don't think you can buy it anymore. I didn't get a chance to. Apparently, they suspended that program.
Well, I think they're going to bring it back because some of our friends that purchased it still have their blue checks. It's weird when 200 follower reply guys have blue
checks. Yeah.
I love it. And I mean, it goes back to the same sort of stuff right here. Rightists flourish under free speech, which is why it must be destroyed by left libs like Weinstein.
Every single time.
Every single time. And the same reason why we actually should be celebratory of this. This is something that Charlemagne pointed out on Telegram, and I want to go on a little rant about it because he's absolutely right. We should take this as a win. And we are so pessimistic. We are such black-pilled frogs sometimes. I swear we are incapable of taking the slightest modicum of a victory. And when we talk about W's or we talk about wins, people will immediately reply just saying, you're on copium, you're on hopium, you're on whatever kind of drugs.
This doesn't matter, you schizo.
This doesn't matter, you schizo. This doesn't matter on the big picture. The bigger things are still happening. It's like, yes. But all of a sudden, the material conditions that allow our people to fucking thrive are there. We should not
be.
The
fact that normie cons are talking about basic Steve Saylor talking points from 2015 is kind of crazy in my opinion.
All of a sudden, some crazy South African billionaire who grew up during the post-apartheid world and saw what it was like beforehand, to a point where even the guy that ended apartheid had to denuclearize because he didn't want the ANC to have nuclear weapons.
All of
a sudden, we have people talking about Steve Saylor all the time. We've got people quote tweeting John Derbyshire in the
Jack interacting with Loki Julianus.
Nobody's interact. I mean, I think that we've gotten to a point now where the conditions have made it to a point where things are moderately better for moving the discourse in that direction. The ADL is being openly mocked. They've gone full mask off and simply saying, wow, it'd be a real shame if something happened to this nice Twitter account.
They want to go after Google. And the Yoel Roth.
They want to take it off the App Store. And so I just think that we're moving into a direction that I think is rather good for us to keep in mind. So I would say that this is a W.
Though?
No,
too many professional people use Twitter to have that happen. They can't totally ghettoize it, in my opinion. I mean,
I don't think you could turn Twitter into a ghetto. I mean, it took him just shitting on CBS News for them to come back and say, we've resumed tweeting. For what reason? Because the owner of the company called your ass out on it.
That's hilarious, man.
So, I mean, even if this is, he's the guy that's walking around saying that the emperor has no clothes and look at me with my drip. I mean, this is where we're at. And I do think that Charlemagne is right, is that we have a really difficult time, either by our own learned helplessness, or by the fact that we've just, I think it is how in technological slavery, I think it plays a large factor into it.
Yeah.
It's the, I'm going to Mastodon. It's the, I'm moving to Canada. It's the, well, we're incapable of winning because but we should take advantage of the things that give us a better opportunity. This is a whole new front. This is a whole new front on the battlefield that's been opened up for us. I'm happy with the energy. This is great news.
What's the quote they always use? To the privileged, equality seems like oppression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all every journalist and Janny, and it's
Every normie right-winger,
Yeah.
like, who works for the Young Republicans is tweeting that stuff right now.
Exactly. And it's coal posting, but living it up, you know what I mean? Like Langdon Industry. Is Langdon Industries the guy that the phone prank
We will literally have we will rake them over the coals of the coal posting that they've done for years.
yeah, the coal posting. Yeah. There's this thread about Canada I want to read, but we'll do that at the end of the show. Did you see that one? I believe he was an account that used to follow me before.
Herp Derp saying a whole new front to notice and move on. It'll be great. Well, I know that that's not Stain Haynes' YouTube account that's commenting on that, but Herp Derp, if you're very happy to know, and I'll announce it here, he and I are actually going to talk about the concept of notice and move on, so your happy ass can be satisfied on that issue. Because I'll tell you what, there are times where I read his tweets and I get pissed off because I think I'm being personally attacked on this issue. But I've spent more or less all of my time on here telling people to actually do things that are meaningful, and to do so, Geo has done the same. And the simple fact is that there's a commentariat class that's always going to be here. But you know what? That's a discussion for another time. But I hope that you've enjoyed getting my attention for the last 30 seconds, you miserable prick.
Yeah. No, but it's a greater way to notice to move on. Yeah, I mean, okay. The reality is that there is a capacity where we do notice and move on, and like, yeah, the Jays have been exiled to 110 forums. Oh man, yeah, Reddit will become even worse now. Reddit will be worse because now they'll have to live in their cars. They'll have to do the boondocking thing while moderating subreddits. But for example, the recent the whole thing around the whole mass incident at the Q place in Colorado, the fact that we found out, like, the narrative has been collapsing because they found out about the guy that committed it. It's probably like an intra-scene conflict sort of thing. Like, these people were going nuts, right? Like, if you saw these posters, these very top Brahmin caste identity people, for lack of a better term, they were like doxing libs of TikTok and Matt Walsh, and they were saying Tucker Carlson should be put on public show trials, and like Fox News is responsible, and stochastic T-wordism, and like all this like crap, right? But yet, if you analyze the reality of the situation, it probably would happen. It's probably more nuanced than what we think. And the fact that this information can get out in a way that would be censored, the publication that came out with the whole, like, the guy that did it identified as non-binary, Axios. You have to really, this, Matt, like, Axios is basically the dirt sheet of the globalists. Whatever the narrative where they want to go is published in Axios first. This is something that Indian Bronson told me a few years ago. So Axios is pretty reputable in terms of the information that the regime lets out. You know what I mean? Next, they're going to dox Tucker Carlson. Yeah. I believe he's been threatened multiple times with journalists publishing where his house is, where he lives. And I believe Fox News had to sue a few reporters, or were threatening to sue, and they had to back off, if I recall. But oh, look at this, fishy friends. Indian Bronson would know. Listen, Indian Bronson's going to be on Content Minded soon, so you better kayfabe the anti-Bronson posting. No, but I think that Axios, the fact that it came from Axios, is significant, more or less. And the fact that all these people on Twitter, like that, Juniper person and whatever, like, they're stunned now. They don't know what to do. So they have to cope and say that, no, actually, this is a legal strategy by the lawyer
to avoid hate crime charges or whatever. So
which doesn't make any sense.
To me, it puts it into a nice rhetorical contradiction. And the left thrives on dialectics. Usually, the right tends to die by them. I'm beginning to think that Land is a little wrong on that point. But I think that the issue that this whole thing points out is, like, one, it illustrates two things. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many times that you decide to mutilate yourself. They're still going to look at you for the color of your skin. And then two, even they admit that it's all bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But that's what I mean. I think that the insanity of the past few days of them, like, there were tweets in the hundreds of thousands that were like going after these people, and that libs of TikTok is directly responsible, and people in like mainstream media saying that this woman, this like, you know, orthodox you know what woman that's like a real estate broker, is like personally responsible for all of the evils in the world. Like the fact that they can equate like pointing out the actual like pizza related activity that goes into a lot of this activism, that's grounds for them basically being imprisoned for their speech, is quite crazy. Like I even saw like, and you know, I don't really like her. I don't really because I think, you know, whatever. But I even saw posts against Liz Brunig, like the fact that like she pretends to be you know, certain, like it's these people, it's like even just having a contrary opinion to them is like a part of the radicalization or whatever. It's really, you know what I mean? Like it's just the insanity is like I can't even describe it. I can't, but anyways, go ahead, Prude. I don't know. I'm just rambling right now.
Well, I mean, I think that it'll be. I think that this story. My initial thought was,
Oh, they're
well,
gonna
maybe
memory hole it. Maybe
they'll
they're gonna
memory hole it, but they're
Yeah.
not going to. It'll be memory hole in terms of like the news cycle, but the discourse around it is going to stay any time that something like this happened. Because the one thing that definitely comes to my mind is that, well, think about all these people that are tweeting about it. Think about all of these things that are going out about the, well, you know, are NBs valid or whatever. Like they've caught themselves into their own logic trap, and I think that we're going to see something much worse come out of it. It's the same way that no one talks about the Pulse thing that happened in Florida a few years back.
Yeah, someone asked that. Yeah, apparently he was also he wasn't he
previously
gay?
known to the authorities as well.
Oh yeah, that too.
So I mean,
Yeah.
just I also have to think about myself, like, oh, like we said at the very beginning, right before we went live, that, you know, all of this stuff happened, and you had this like convenient U.S. Army veteran that was there saying like, well, you know, we fought for it, and this is what
that
we
Martin
fought for.
tweet, he's like, the Martin tweet where Martin's like, I was just no, it was Benedict, it was Bennett Demelich, where he's like, our good Mormon friend Bennett, where he's like, I just happened to be there with my 22-year-old kid that I happened to drag to a wholesome Chungus drag show. And it's like, you know, it's like, this is it's a totally normal thing. Like my family, I just took them out to a wholesome
we just
drag.
took them out to it. It's a wholesome
We used to
drag
go to county
show.
fairs, and now we're taking them out to
Taking them out to drag shows. You know, this is what I've served my country for, so they can do their own thing. And, you know, it just happened to be there at a place called Club Q. Just nothing about this is suspect.
Yeah. And the guy looks like a cholo too. It's like he had the socks. Can you imagine like if two like old like you know, like you take like a right-wing boomer veteran, like imagine Josh Ham going after, like if they had a wrestling match, you know, who would win that one? Like two of these, like already. He's like, you know, can you imagine these two guys in the ring just going? I don't know why I have that picture in my head, but no, but like, yeah, nothing suspicious, but it, you know, even, how shall I say it? There was this tweet I saw that
New Gloff says alphabet gang soy facing over this.
Oh man, there was this tweet I saw about this one person that, you know, whose life was tragically ended. It was a trans woman or a trans man that was a bartender. And there was this one.
Are the scars on the chest or below?
No, they had the picture of the scars. Yeah, the picture. Dylan, I don't want to say the name, but this one person said at least they lived their true form before they died. And, you know, from our perspective, it's like, okay, you want to have compassion for people, right, that are suffering. But I think like to say that this, you know, this person lived their true form before they died, it's like, I don't want to say anything offensive. You know what I mean? Like I generally, as much as we joke, there are a lot of like younger women and a lot of younger men that are genuinely suffering, and they feel that this type of stuff is an outlet for them. And they do generally feel like this particular community gives them the support that they need. But it's like, you see the picture with like the mastectomy scar, and it's like, I don't know. It really struck me. It really bothered me. You know what I mean? It really bothered me because this young person, this young trans person, probably was going through a lot in life. And I think this is why it's so disgusting how they prey upon children. You know what I mean? Like, it really, you know what I mean? Like, I have compassion for these people, in other words. I do, but it's like, to say that they lived their true form before they died, it's like, something about that just really, help me out, Prude, help me out here. I can't describe it. You know what I mean? There's something about it that really is kind of like hideous to me. You know what I mean? It's like, they think it's a beautiful affirmation, but it's like, I don't know. I don't want to get, you know what I mean?
Like,
Yeah.
Our friend Charlemagne had written in the Old Glory Club about how democracy is a sacrament in the new civic
Yeah.
religion, and this is another sacrament of it. This is the, dare I say, this is their form of a new covenant. The old covenant being the form of circumcision. This one is now double mastectomy, or certain plasty surgery that'll get rid of things. And there's a reason why our friend Stained Haynes always puts out the flyer that says "Stop Tomboy Genocide," and that's necessary. It's the cult of identity. It's the cult of trying to shed your truth. And this is why I kind of find it Gnostic, is that you are literally mutilating yourself, and you are ending you're realizing that, well, really, to achieve our true selves and our earth, our spiritual being and our true self, our dual spirit or two spirit self, we must be fully atomized physically on this earth, and we must shed our earthly body to transcend it. It's like a form of Gnostic asceticism that I find it to be a way in which they are indoctrinated. Like, all of the complaints against sort of Catholic or Orthodox like Christianity about like monasticism or whatnot, like, well, aren't you just like guiding or guising or guiling young men and women into these things, when really the people that are being that are literally getting body parts of them chopped off. And I think what the real depressing thing about it is the one post I saw about someone's headstone, and they had put on the sort of plastic,
the flag.
No, they put on a cloth covering of the flag, that said "Rest in Power" with their trans name or whatever. And it really says a lot for a person to be their true selves, that they're still buried with their real name, but at the end of the day, the people that want to support them are putting it on with false coverings and fakeness, that things aren't going to stand the test of time. And that's where we're at now. And I find it to be particularly evil to see so many kids being turned into this. And what we're seeing is the culmination. And I mean, California's done it, and I think Canada has done it as well, to where it's just like, children can consent to this stuff, and we will take away your kids if we can do it. And this, to me, is the ultimate issue right here, is that, well, you can do it all you want. And I mean, you talked with people like Helena and others, and I have a lot of sympathy for them. And I know that sounds like, well, you should be angry. And I'm like, well, I am.
I'm angry at the people that perpetrate it. I'm not angry at the people themselves. I'm not angry at this person who unfortunately lost their lives in a mass casualty thing. You know what I mean? I have serious. I know people on the left, they're like, you're just bullshitting. You're just bullshitting. You're an evil transphobe.
Lord,
blah, blah, blah.
forgive them, for they do not know what they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how I feel about a lot of these kids, is that,
exactly.
Do you know how easy it is to be put out there on the internet and like totally adopt a new identity? Like, I want to consider the fact that before Elon's stuff out here is that, oh, there was places online, or there are algorithms like the Elsa Gate stuff or whatever, to where it was very easy to target kids? Or why is it that places like Meta, or formerly like Twitter, and I'm sure Twitter still has these people, is that why do they have all these like these like neurologists? Why do they have all these behavioral psychologists on there? Why do they do all the things that are necessary that would keep people algorithmically addicted to these platforms as possible? It's not as if they don't know what they're doing or what they're capable of doing. Most likely they are aware of what they're doing. And that's why like Meta and YouTube and Twitter and TikTok especially, not only does it addle your attention span, it provides a mechanism of easily indoctrinating you based upon what's for your page or what's out there. And it's going to be, I think in the near future, you're going to see very similar to that pandemic amnesty article. You're going to see
Mhm.
stuff like this for the kids that have been mutilated, or the long-term effects of hormones and things like that, because we're now witnessing the largest mass social experiment in the history of mankind, which
Yeah.
is modernity. And we're coming to see some really nasty effects because the hypothesis has been disproven. It does not generate progress. It does not generate equality. All that it has done is led to the mass destruction of peoples, races, and ideas. And that's where we're at.
Yeah. No, 100%. But that's the thing. Like, we are living in the time of great experimentation. We're living in the sort of counter-initiatory phase, to quote the Perennialists. But it's like, that's what I mean. Like, I have compassion for the victims of it. But the problem is the discourse around it, and because they have the backing of people that still believe these institutions are legitimate, like the Society for Pediatricians or whatever, they're like, oh, this no side effects, perfectly healthy, no problem stopping puberty and so forth. It's like, you know what I mean? Like,
there's a lamppost for every gender clinic out there.
Yeah, but I think that it's the way that they frame it, the way the response to Christians that I've seen or other people of faith, when we say that we have compassion and we pray for these people, that they seeketh true guidance in, a higher form of guidance. They always say that, no, that's not the real compassion. The real compassion is, quote, gender affirming care. You know what I mean? Like, it's, first of all, like, the fact that we're seeing an explosion of it means that there's probably, the whole argument of like, well, these people were always this way. It's just that now it's acceptable for them to come out, blah, blah, blah. That can only stretch for so far over a certain demographic point, over a certain percentile. You know what I mean? Like, there's obviously some kind of social contagion going on. But that being said, the whole, it's again, it's the whole thing about love, right? Love is not enabling someone. Love is something else. Love is telling people that maybe life would be better if you found a solution that doesn't entail giving into the whims of a certain, mandates of certain ideologies. You know what I mean? Like, maybe there's something more. And I think that the problem is, in terms of the activists that push this, you're never going to reason with them because they believe that the actual thing is to affirm that is the true compassion and love.
Well,
they're never going to see.
The other thing too is that I wouldn't say that it's all fake. I mean, there are genuinely mentally ill people out there and things like that, but it is a social contagion.
Yeah, there's gender dysphoria. Yeah.
Well, but the thing that I always compare this modern movement to is that this is a state-sponsored, state-subsidized suicide contagion. And it is done on a level that is a lot more profitable for them and a lot more slower. It does not matter what the percentage of death is. It doesn't matter what the percentage of cancer is or hair loss or whatever. They're going to
cancer, that's a big thing too. People don't realize.
Or your bone marrow or your bone density getting weaker. All of these things out here, it's a state-sponsored social contagion that they have no problem letting loose onto the world because they know exactly who they're targeting. They know exactly what they're doing. Isn't it not disturbing to you that they've more or less created, as Plato would say, a slave caste based upon diet and medicine, as right nationalist alludes to in his Eggs Benedict option book, that all of a sudden they talk about how the LGBTQ voting bloc is going to be the fastest growing voting bloc in the United States by 2030. Does that not ring a bell for what cause for concern that all of a sudden now that this is now an open social contagion that is state mandated, state enforced, state sanctioned, and California will extradite your children away from you
and Ontario?
In case you say no, and the same thing in Ontario. So it does indicate to me exactly what's going on here. Because here's the thing: the devil himself cannot make hell an attractive place, but by God can he make the road to it as pretty as it can be.
Yep.
And that's where we're at.
And that's the thing, though. I think that they think it's the same thing with like how they've managed to demonize thoughts and prayers. They don't really get the concept of like Christian compassion and love, that it's to correct oneself. It's for a higher end. It's not to enable you within your state of fallenness. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, no, but maybe these people would be happier if they're their true selves. It's like, well, it doesn't seem like they're happy. And it seems that they're not happy universally, even in countries where they have state-enforced toleration, like in Sweden. The 40% is still the same there. You know what I mean? Like, how how much more inclusive and trans friendly can Sweden get, or Canada? You know what I mean? Like, it's just there's
Just in
obviously
time for
something
the
else
horde
there.
to come in.
Yeah. Speaking of Canada, there's this thread that I sent you.
Yeah, I've got it open. Let me share
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, the road to hell is paved with foreskins and scrub. Oh God, Charlemagne. But this is a thread. I believe his name was Hyperborean Gale, and I found this thread to be very poetic. I found it to be poetic. It's about the MAID program, if you know what that is in Canada.
Yeah, the what is it? The medically assisted. Um,
Dying.
yeah, I don't know what the
Yeah.
I is for, but yeah.
Medically assisted I forget the exact. Yeah. So I'm very content. I spent the past 3 years of my life in a frenzy trying to increase the autonomy I have over my existence and the gulf of distance between the system and my life, because Canada is about to go through hell and I'm content with my position as an outsider. And
Yeah, let's scroll down.
beautiful picture, by the way. I don't know if I've driven down there.
Next year they begin, E-word, well, to end sunset tens of thousands of us a month because the only thing they spend money on is the medical system, and they are fast running out of means to sustain its costs. This will be accompanied by the most HR Reddit speak fanfare that you can imagine.
Empathy, compassion, end of life care, like you name it, like all the Reddit speak. So I expect a full out propaganda campaign humanizing your doctor, putting you down with a sunset shot. Appeals to every age group and demographic. Are you a socially awkward teen, victim of a certain variety of assault? Are you an old head with a back injury? The state thinks it's time for you to sunset. They have more on the way. You, and indeed I, for the matter, have no idea how far they're going to take this. I guess once you feel entitled to have people and hero to save yourself a modest hospital expense, people, pretty much anything is on the table now.
And he quote tweets another one about watching a vid and can see the next thing that they're going to go after, that after this legally medical assisted, sunsetting thing. The lady is talking to me about aquamation rather than cremation, a burial purposes where they dissolve you in acid and flush you down the drain, energy efficient and no need to waste more space on graveyards.
Wow.
And I mean, I know other religions may have a take on graveyards, but to me, it's one of the surest shines of like Christianization. Because what is the purpose of the preservation of the bodies? To look for the resurrection of the dead and the life of the age to come. Can't really do that if you've been nothing more than liquidized down the drain. But we'll continue.
I have no frame of reference to my historical knowledge to compare this to. Exactly. I'll talk a little bit about the addendum to my my No Amnesty article. Things are very weird up here now. People already don't believe it. And when you try to speak about it, all you get is radio static back. Whatever this is, it's not a state of affairs long for this world. Canada has been an afterthought country. Yeah, and this is the very important point, by the way.
Medical assistance in dying is what they call it.
Medical assistance in dying. Yeah.
MAID.
Canada has been an afterthought country on the world stage for the longest time, even to those that rule it as a Caesarean. Nobody needs to care, and thus nobody will notice this place is coming apart until it's already in the depths of open and total state failure. Those with a mild and peaceful people, blessed to live in a land of great natural beauty, but a terrible dark cloud is about to sweep this place, and it will take many with it. It will put an entire history and culture to death. But from that, something emerges. Modesty and kindness, naivety and passivity. These are the traits my people cling to even now in the face of it. I think this cloud is going to beat that out of us. I think when the universe corrects an imbalance, it does so with the sharpest and most extreme opposition forces. I'm here in the great trial. My country is finally the first of something outside the first at something other than hockey. Albeit this is being at the edge of the abyss, we will be the first to go because no one cares and no one pays attention. But we'll also be the first to see what's on the other side. So Boreal, who's this new name, he's a heritage Canadian. Okay.
Oh, and here's the other thing too. Before you get into it, yes, Yori, they did. They said rather than face homelessness, this man has opted to engage in medical assistance in dying. Because rather than pay the costs of dealing with an eviction or a foreclosure, it is easier to just end your life as a middle-aged man.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's incredibly blackpilling. Like now, as a heritage Canadian, he's probably feeling it even worse. I'm a son of an Ellis Islander. I fully admit that. Well, I know my father's family's been here for almost 100 years, but it's like the thing is though, I said this in my piece that's going to come out in Man's World in January, that Canada, there's a sort of specter of death metaphysically hanging over Canada, whether it's, having no, what that other medical procedure laws,
Yeah.
having this MAID program, and also the stasis of life during the Chinese delicacy era. It seems that there is a persistent Thanatos drive, whether it's sustaining life in a state of being untowards death to preserve life, or whether it's ending life for the convenience of the system as a whole. There's something about it that really is there's sort of a pale horse riding upon the consciousness of the Great White North. And there's something about it that I feel is, and the fact that they're coaching this in this very like Scandinavian secular moralism of like empathy and compassion and care, and the state comes in, the therapeutic state comes in at your last moments, at your worst. And it's like there's something very demonic about it because of the fact that it's so clinical, but yet they try to like LARP as this like very secular moralist humanitarian compassion nonsense. There's no longer, it's a necropolitics. It's not, it's a necropolitics in a way that Mbembe, even didn't anticipate. It's it's thoroughly a necropolitics. And it's like, there's something about the language around it is very scary and disgusting to me as a religious person, because death should come with a holy and biblical rapture. You know what I mean? It should come as a defiance. It should come at your most sacred of moment, rather than this, like, like I talked about this before in a YouTube video where I saw this video where this guy was a scientist. So of course, he didn't believe in God, but he had Huntington's and he paid like 200 grand so they could go to like, I forget which country, was it Denmark or Belgium or Sweden, for Dignitas to anhero him. And it was like this whole thing around, like, I'm ending my life because of this and that. And it's like this process. I don't know, man. I don't know.
This is the way of the last man.
Yeah.
This is,
and I saw this on TVO, public television, by the way. But yeah, go ahead with the last man point. Go ahead. What were you saying?
This is the Letzer Mensch. This is a guy that is tired of his life. There is no risk, seeking comfort and security, and so unable to build and act upon any sort of self-actualized ethos or purpose or what is supposed to do. The only comfort that is left for the last man, who can no longer look upon the stars and say anything nice about them other than they are lights in the sky, is that I will seek my comfort and I will seek my end and what I believe to be dignity, which is actually the worst death imaginable. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're at. This is nihilism. This is where you're at here. And I know that Eric points out the Green New Deal bit from Zero H.P. Lovecraft, but this is the way that it starts. And this is the way that it goes about it, is that every aspect of liberal eschatology, which I find to be just more and more increasingly nihilistic above anything else, is that it's on Twitter all the time. It's on with this MAID thing. It's with the climate stuff. The only peaceful avenue for the West to avoid its own eschatology is to end your existence now. Right. It's the same thing with the movie about Children of Men. The only way for you to find yourself to be some sort of heroic hero and Faustian aspect of man is to end yourself. The real death cult does not lie in sort of the Abrahamic tradition of the West that emerged in the Christianity that came after.
It's not going to be fire and brimstone.
It's not. It will not be fire and brimstone. The aspect of it will be a secular liberation theology that has nothing to do with Christianity. It has everything to do with the fact that if you are truly a liberalized free man, then the only comfort that you can truly seek now is to end it all, because the people that will succeed you will be a little happier, and all the achievements that came before you, you can finally shed your earthly shame of it all and embrace the fact that as your last lights go out, you know that you have avoided the end of the world for the rest of them. And that's almost what's coming now here, is that it's regret, it's suicide, and that's all it's left here. And that's the end point of liberalism, is nothing more than a deranged secular nihilism that they will tweet about as they live stream it right as they say their last moments. Bye-bye now. Bye. And then as they go out
into a graceless death.
And that's it.
Yeah, man, you got to clip this. Oh my God. Yeah, Albert Camus has entered the chat, internet friend. This is a great tweet by Nudge right here about Canada. But no, before I say that, I really should do a review of Necropolitics. Would you guys like that for Giant Reviews, Necropolitics by Mbembe? Say yeah. Press 1 if you like me to review a Theory Cell new left book, Necropolitics. Press 2 if you'd rather me review the red book more on time. No, liberalism is a necropolitics. Mbembe was right. Liberalism tends towards necropolitics, and he meant racialism and so forth. But he was right that liberalism can only sustain itself through this thanopolitical action, through this final program of the last man essentially sunsetting into oblivion. The sort of like Thomas Ligotti, Banitar, mass extinction movement. That's like, this is going to be compassion for the earth because we no longer believe in God. We believe in some kind of material operation of the earth. Yeah, exactly, Spasticus. It's a moral syphilis. And, Mbembe, he was right about liberalism. But here's this quote, this this is a comment by, so all of you guys, you want me to review Necropolitics, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to review Necropolitics, maybe on Generate Review, so I get a little bit of money for my suffering, you know what I mean? But I'll release clips, Maybe I'll do half and then half, for the Generate Reviews. But no, here's Nudge Unit, great comment. The average Canadian thinks he is governed so well and so long as he himself is not being asked to, off himself to reduce the burden of the healthcare system. Lol. Exactly. When you place that incentive, when you open up the floodgates, it's going to be, there will be so much demonic energy that I can't fathom this. I cannot fathom
this. A mass sacrificing event. Lord only knows what will come out of that. And someone's asking, did I shoot off the cuff or did this come from somewhere? I mean, I'm currently, I'm literally reading right now, Nihilism, the Root of Revolution in the Modern Age by Father Seraphim Rose. And
nice.
My current inspiration from this. But I mean, this is where you're at, is that in an age of the last man, and the only thing that you have left are nothing more than social idols. Man-made idols like the NHS.
Want me to review Necropolitics? Holy crap!
Well, because it's hail the spreadsheet, man. The line must go up. Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing about it is that Northern Observer. That was a really great interview that Russell Walter did with E. Michael Jones about libido domine and just the fact that liberation allows you to be nothing more than a slave to passion. And I mean, that's the biggest thing about when we on Twitter when people talk about sex positivity or certain aspects of pornography.
Is that really that's another thing too? Birth control. This is a fire take. Okay, this is a total incel take. Don't post that picture of me from 2014 where I'm painting and you can see my guns. But birth control and the sort of taboo around the girl boss sexuality, the default. She was talking about this with Helen of Roy. That really has killed romance because true romance can only be achieved with the thrilling threat of pregnancy, in my opinion. I think that's true. Anyways, that's just, I'm not going to go.
But I mean, the other thing too is that there's always just an SSRI or birth control SSRI pipeline. I mean, that's always been the real case about it all. Is just that it's in the water.
The exhilaration of the chance of never listen. No, never. I'm just going to be telling on myself, so I'm not going to.
Really, at the end of the day, what's going to happen here is that people are going to realize that one day when some pernicious serpent swallows them whole, they'll be like, oh wow, all of this cummies shit that I was really into is only just killed me, and here we're at. and that's more or less where I think that what we're going to be dealing with in the future.
Is just showing.
Oh Jesus, Gio. Lord have mercy on you.
Geo checking the impregnation tax.
We've talked about that actually on my episode of Content Minded with you.
Yeah, we did.
You can't do. That's not it.
Pulling out. Look at this. Pulling out is a psyop. Pulling out makes you. Pulling out effeminizes you. Okay, bros. Don't do it. No fucking kidding.
60% of the time works every time. But anyway.
You're not a real man if you pull out. Okay, you're not a real man.
And Cat moment, you were working in an ad agency optimizing the conversion rate of your Sunset Service Facebook ads.
Oh God,
I'm sure somewhere at some ad agency right now, either at McKinsey or McKinney or any of the big ones right now, they're going to definitely have that happening for sure.
Yeah.
So Lord knows that it's coming.
Listen, you know how many microplastics are in condoms? Okay, when you are using a condom, you might as well just be, what does E. Michael Jones call it? Transient sterile relations. You might as well just like have a your wife's boyfriend. Okay, you might as well just be doing. You might as well just be watching in the corner in the cuck chair.
In your hotel room.
And exactly. And the microplastics. It's a transient sterile relation, okay? When you use a condom, so please, look at it. Geo fits. Geo fits in every conversation.
It has to happen at least once a show. It's part of tradition at this point. But speaking of individuals that don't pull out,
the risk of pregnancy is a return to tradition. Okay, what are you guys talking about?
You're a Faustian man. Embrace the risk. But anyways,
exactly.
Speaking of men who don't pull out, like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, I think that gives us the last issue for us to talk about today in regards to Twitter. They reinstated Trump.
Yeah,
and it's nice to see everyone retweeting his bangers. But if this fucker wants to run for president, he needs to tweet.
He's got to. Martin's 100% correct. Yeah, he needs Twitter.
Like we said this on the Old Glory Club 2024 stream with Orrin McIntyre. Like, unless you're tweeting, unless he's tweeting and getting ahead of the media, he will be like every other Republican candidate ever, where he has to be on the defensive to the media all the time. Twitter was his way to circumvent that above all else.
And his ability to pour scorn in his opponents too. That was another thing.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he like literally tweeted at like sitting senators and Congress people with like the most outrageous stuff, like some of the bangers he produced over the years, like Coca-Cola is very upset at me. I'll still drink their trash anyways. Like it's
I've never seen a skinny person drink a Diet Coke.
The Barney Frank one, nipples protruding, disgusting. Like his blue shirt.
Many such cases,
many such cases. But that's what I mean. Like I think that it really did deliver Trump a stratagem that was a cut above his opponents. Like, who's the one that could really tweet besides Trump? Like, maybe, I don't know, not even JD Vance, like, when you think about it.
I mean,
like,
Blake
what
Masters
Republican
could tweet, but I mean...
Yeah.
Aside from other Republicans that had a decent Twitter game, I don't know. I can't think of anyone. I mean, you can say that Trump can't pull out of Twitter. No, he shouldn't. He needs to return in glorious ejaculation to tweet back onto Twitter and make the most of it.
Can you imagine his first tweet, the reaction? It'll get like over a few million likes too. Like, you know what I mean? Like he would just have to say I'm back and that would be over. Like the internet, like life would literally stop for a day in the West, you know what I mean, if he started tweeting again. So
yeah, it'd be a great way to crash Twitter, right? But it's frustrating. I mean, it's a great thing, right? But he needs to, he has to, I think. I mean, he's like, well, I love Truth Social. I don't need that shit anyway. I'm like, yeah, but when people are already calling your campaign announcement low energy, and like the Republican Party is against you once again, all the media and even Fox News like really pulled out from not doing your full announcement speech. I mean, that's the case. I mean, Heath is right. His first tweet should be "Help me find my friends." Like that would be great.
Yeah. Or if he tweets like a Hyperborean edit, like
or if he brings back his like all of those pictures of him with like the gloves walking with the American flag, where he looks like the American Austrian painter.
Yeah.
those pictures went so hard, and then it just feels like a
Oh, man.
total betrayal, knowing that
Yeah.
that he didn't go across the Rubicon. But hey,
Yeah. I mean, I think like, yeah, he tweets it with a spinny wheel, like Trump, like in Hyperborea, like
and yeah, dark
he tweets a fast
Trump
wave edit.
edits.
Yeah, dark MAGA edit.
Yeah, dark MAGA edits. There we
He
go.
like tweets a photo of himself with like the laser eyes. He's saying, "I'm back." Like it's
your favorite president's back. That's what we need.
Mike Hyperborea great again.
There you go.
No, but here's the thing. I think he'll come back because True Social was really just his own version of like a private Twitter because they banned him off of Twitter. He's like Twitter was such a massive part of his thing that my fellow Americans, the storm is upon us.
Oh, it would be great. He needs to come
Yeah.
back and tweet more. That's for sure.
But
but yeah,
people were comparing him to Nixon though in some ways. Like I don't know. Like it's
Nixon was a lot younger though.
yeah, he was.
That's my concern.
Yeah. Like I think it really is Trump's last, like 2024 is his last chance, more or less. Like it's
I mean, this is why I really liked Carl and Dave's stream about this. It's just like he has to. I want him to win because narratively it makes sense that he would return triumphant and do what must be done. But Lord knows that's going to be a really difficult challenge.
Yeah. But like the one thing I wanted to say was, and I know like people don't want to hear this, right? But okay, say Trump wins, right? He gets another 4 years. I think like there should be a conscious effort to strategize like what happens after Trump. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we all want him to live till 100, but that's not realistic. You know what I mean? Like, especially he eats McDonald's every day. Like it's like, I just think that I don't really see any Republican like replacing him. Not even like DeSantis, obviously. Like I don't see like they need someone that's younger, that has dynamism, that isn't exactly like Trump. Because I think you can't replicate Trump. Like I truly believe that maybe Blake Masters or someone like that. I don't know. Could you see JD Vance being the president one day? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's a little too early for that. But I mean, I think Charlemagne also has a point. There is no after Trump. I think
there's no.
He's going to leave a really tall shadow over
Yeah.
whatever is next of sort of like conservative ink or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would love it if Barron were to one day come up and emerge and win. And because
vanquish his father,
avenge his father. I mean, that would be
Barron
great.
Would be the real dark MAGA.
There you go. Like it would be Shakespearean at this point, But there does need to, the Con Inc. people are right that there needs to be an after Trump or a post Trump moment, but it can't be cringe, neoconservatism again.
No, there cannot be a de-Trumpification of the Republican Party the way that there was a de-Stalinization under Brezhnev. Like the Republicans, they need to embrace it. They need to embrace that form of nativist populism and of like sort of like they have to seriously look at especially like their economic policies, and they have to like stop filleting like corporations, and like they have to like stop focusing on like tax cuts and like Milton Friedman bullshit. You know what I mean? Like
At this point,
I mean,
Barron
obviously,
is the last son of the West from Murdoch.
Oh man. Sorry, it was Khrushchev. It wasn't Brezhnev. I keep getting them confused.
Yeah.
Khrushchev
always comes after Stalin.
Yeah, Khrushchev. Yeah. No, but that's what I mean. Like the Republican Party can't have a de-Trumpification. First of all, that's not going to work. Their voter base will not have it because now the boomers are being replaced by reactionary Gen Xers and millennials that are going to take up the mantle. If the Zoomers are all going to go towards the global giga favela of the Democrats, there's going to have to be a moment where millennials seriously look at themselves and say that maybe, Trump gave us an out, an exit, to quote Yarvin. Sorry, to quote Moldbug. How dare I besmirch the name of Moldbug by equating him with Yarvin. No, but seriously, I think that's I know that, I know me and Jay Burden and someone, and I think it was Ludwig Path, we were talking about like why the millennials have like embraced reactionary politics. There is something to be said about that. Why Gen Xers and older millennials are starting to become more conservative. I think they're going to have to be. They're going to have to choose. The Zoomers are threatening to basically quash any opposition. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, like the Zoomers are not going to be the base generation that people thought a few years ago. 30% of them, yeah, it's truly reactionary. 30% of them will be more baster than based, but it looks bleak, man. It looks bleak.
Yeah, it does. I mean,
yeah.
and I think that there should be maybe in the future we'll do a more serious discussion about what comes after Trump, because I mean that conversation needs to be had.
We need someone else though. That we need a guest that could probably maybe Haywood. I don't know.
Yeah, we can talk about him because he's Haywood. I think let's shoot for Haywood.
Yeah,
but yeah, Sandbatch especially because he's got the historical chops and the autism to map out how politics has evolved in this country. But yeah, I mean, this all comes to my mind that conversation will need to be had. But whatever comes from that conversation, Twitter is going to play a role, I think, indefinitely. Because for better or for worse, it is the public square. I don't think that we'll see about this like post about. I mean, he will give us the hard truth, and I'm kind of for that. We do need to wake up and smell the coffee sometimes. Yeah. But the thing that I think that comes to my mind about Twitter, and especially this poll about suspended banned accounts, is that I don't know how much will change. I do see that Twitter is going to be a place still to shape the discourse and continue to fight the fight that we keep doing. But at the same time, I think that our eternal calling card will be help me find my friends, because people are still going to get banned. People are still going to deal with what it is. Yeah. And we're going to be here for a while on that regard. And so maybe we can get both of them, Sandbatch and Haywood. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It'd be a fun conversation for post-Trump. But are we ready for Super Chats, Gio?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
That'll be like a Follow the Rules team.
Oh. All right, I got my studio opened up now that we're back at it. Spasticus Autisticus for £1 sterling. Just he sends it in. Fishy Frenzy for £2 says, "Is this enough for a Pepsi in America?" Yes, it is. It is enough for Pepsi in America because the pound.
I'll still drink that trash anyways.
Is Pepsi okay? Actually, I think the pound and the dollar are more or less pretty equal now since the economy's gone to shit.
Interesting.
Raging Mandrill for $4.99 US says the USSR definitely had to make ideological concessions even prior to World War II with the recreation of the rank of marshal and the use of folk music during World War II.
Oh yeah.
I mean, J. Otto Poll, for as kind of cringy as he can be with his posting on Twitter, I mean, he's done some really good historical stuff on how the ideology had to shift and make way for the Russian concept of ethnos and deal with the common language and people of the Russians of the time. So, yeah, I mean, they definitely did have to make some ideological concessions to get more or less everyone ethnically on board to fight this conflict.
There were time periods, though, where they did push out folk music. I know Bulgarian folk music took a massive hit under Stalin and under Khrushchev, but that eased up by the time you get to the 70s and 80s. You did have Bulgarian folk musicians and I believe Bulgarian, Georgian, and other folk musicians, they sort of came out of hiding in the 70s. So, yeah.
Let's see.
Fascinating history, by the way, of Eastern European folk music. I'm not big into it enough to know, but I have friends who are. My one friend that lives in Zagreb.
Maybe Landshark could give us some info.
Yeah. My one friend I've been friends with for a while now, follower. He lives in Zagreb, so he knows a little bit about that. So,
neat. Raging Mandrill continues saying for $1.99 US, he says, "But Gio, Venus of Oldendorf is your type."
Yes and no. I mean, well, it depends though. It depends the size. It depends the shape. Go consult my good friend, my two good friends, Renault Fault on Twitter and Abby Muncher on Twitter. Say no more. So, you know what's funny? I've been watching these like street food videos from like India, Japan, Thailand. There's this one where this like little chubby Taiwanese girl reviews Thai street food, and she's never mind.
Boy.
Anyways.
Yes, she is. Gio, don't lie.
Yeah, Abby Muncher on Twitter. Consult my good friend Abby Muncher on Twitter. So,
False Gods with a Z at the end for $5 US says, "Thanks for the stream, entertaining as always." Well, that's why we do it. Not just for entertainment, but for your edification on what the hell is going on in the world. And 20 episodes so far. I'm really glad how well this has gone so far. This has been great.
Yeah. Finish the story, Gio. No, there is no story. Just that I watch your food review videos, and every time she eats something, she has this like cute little cheeky.
You're not into
like,
mukbanging, are you?
No, I'm not into that. No,
Oh,
but
thank God.
I like to watch when they make the street food, like how fast they go and everything. But I don't like to watch people eat the food. But like when she like takes a bite, she does this cute little face with her dimples. I believe her name is called Bacon Strips or something on YouTube. I don't know. She's like an Asian mid, she's a chubby Asian mid. What do you want? Anyways, moving on.
Subject to change for $4.99 US.
Dancing Bacon. Yeah, exactly. Arsenio. Dancing Bacon. That's.
There you go. But anyway, subject to change, $4.99 US says Elon just posted a poll regarding amnesty for suspended accounts that haven't broken the law or spam too much. Everyone go vote and retweet. Yep. I did put that in the chat, and you can go look it up if you're on Twitter. So yes, we definitely should. Raging Man Troll for $4.99 US says never ask a white supremacist the race of his girlfriend, never ask a trad the height of his body count. So true. So true. Fishy Frenzy for £2 asks thoughts on the ideas of found family. So the writing and TV trope about, we can't choose our real we can't choose our real family, but we can choose our friends, which in turn becomes our friends.
Yeah, the LGBT family. People have that as well. The whole like created family. What do they have a term for it? Something family.
Yeah, created family. Oh, no.
Found. I think it is found.
What is like created family? The family that that's family of procreation. That's not I'm not even going to ask what their term is. That's the only way that families really made is by procreating with your loving wife and having children. I think it is found family. I'm with Med Gold on this one. Like the fuck rate must increase, but it must be done through the regards of marriage.
You know what's one of the? Oh my God!
Glitter family. There you go. Thank you,
family. Yeah.
Ramon.
Where like you can't you got kicked out of your house because you come from a conservative background, and then you choose your family that you live in this anarchy squat and a trans moderator squat.
Yeah.
They have there was also this video. I believe this guy is named this YouTuber.
Yeah, you'll crash at your gay friend's apartment. And you'll sleep in the same bathtub they used to DIY Prohibition era HRT.
There's this YouTuber, I think his name's Afroism or something, or Lennyism or something ism, where he's like, this is going to be the model of the new family. It's based on these African tribes, but we're, the LGBT people were, the BIPOC LGBT communism is bringing it to North America, and it's going to be like the model of the future of families being like an expansive definition. And like you have like these obscure African tribes that are matrilineal that have this model of like total communal families. And it's like, wow, that seems the most alienating to like a year, even like as an Italian who's like below the Hagenal line, like it's the most alienating type of thing you can ever imagine. Like it's just
I want my new family to be nothing more than a bunch of like butch people that plug their fingers into dikes and then simply say like, all right, guys, we're all going to be one big happy family together, get in the Subaru before I beat the shit out of everybody. And just all of a sudden, this is going to be the future of how things really operate here. And it's not going to be like,
you're going off today, man.
It's not going to be like, go off. Well, I'm in a mood. It's not like it's going to be, family can be whatever you want it to be. And it's not going to be like Oliver and Company, right? Like, it's not what's going to be happening. What's going to be happening is that, some kid is going to be like, told that they're X, Y, and Z after being on social media for a little too long, and their parents were dirt boomers that didn't, pay attention to what the hell is going on. And oh my gosh, I'm going to come out and I'm going to get thrown out, when really their parents just want to talk to you because they're concerned about you. And instead, all of a sudden, it's like you're now living in some like fat, overweight Twitter Janny, ex Twitter Janny place, and you're going to call these people your family.
Smell.
And yeah, imagine the smell kids as they, share an apartment where they have to constantly dilate all the time. Like, this is what you're going to be dealing with. That's the future family that they want for you. And so
they support each other while they're dilating. And
exactly. And they hold each other's hands. And eventually one of those kids is going to burn the village down just to feel its warmth, because it's a little different when your idea of love is pills smuggled in by the people that are hating on, Raya Chayek or whatever her name is from the Libs of TikTok. That's what we're dealing with here, is the social bondage of Discord mod goon caves.
And the moment that you
future of governance.
Discord mod goon caves of that's amazing. That's incredible. But you know what's funny though is that as it's been proven by everyone's favorite Twitch streamer, if you question the narrative as a trans person, you will get nothing but scorn and derision. Like that 17-year-old,
because it's
trans person
apostasy.
that was Norwooding. Yeah.
It's apostasy.
Exactly.
And they can't stone you to death here in the West, although I'm sure they would love to try out the
imagine the
Middle
biggest...
Eastern idea of honor killing. But I mean, all that they'll do is just be like, well, maybe you're just genetically predisposed to be ugly. And it's like, no, this person's been on like fucking drugs for 5 years since they were like 16. What are you talking about?
And then you get hated on by the biggest trans voice on the whole platform. You know what I mean? Like in BreadTube, like it's not BreadTube because the big is Natalie still that big?
I mean, has Natalie Wynn made a video in the last 7 months?
But I think Natalie Wynn sort of like moderated them.
Oh, well, I mean, Natalie Wynn is about to do a podcast with Hillary Clinton of all people, so I could really care less. Yeah.
Amazing.
Hillary Clinton's having a podcast, and one of the guests is, ContraPoints, so...
Hillary had to beat Joe Biden to the party. Like, it's,
Well, yeah, she was just like, well, if you're going to have Dylan Mulvaney on, I guess I'll have Natalie Wynn.
The old guard of
Brett. Yeah, the old guard.
Our philosophy tubes are now beautiful. No, but what I mean is that if you're getting hated on for saying that maybe my life shouldn't be this way, and you sort of like really bought into it with hormones and everything, like that was so even other trans people said, "What are you doing? This is disgusting.
No one told
you're not going to convince anybody
this way." But yeah. I mean, that's the friends of the future now. A bunch of people having trans regret.
But like what you said, there's going to be people that are going to burn the village down just to like watch it, like just to feel the warmth.
Maybe that's what happened in Colorado all along.
No, but that's maybe, who knows? Like, it's just, I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be even more angry than Helena or other detransitioners that are going to like seriously... They'll post harder than any MR night, put it that way. They'll post harder than any MR night, but in terms of the rage that they'll feel. And I think like this is what I mean. Like this is what happens when you don't have a society filled with Christian mercy, because other things are going to be allowed to bubble up and create a cacophony of just total chaos and vengeance that it will be like nothing that you've ever seen. And it won't even be like there will be people that will go nuts and do these mass casualty things without saying it for YouTube. But but for every one of those will be thousands of people that will either end it themselves or will either destroy their personal lives because they feel the darkness within them. And I feel like, and it's not just trans people. I mean like femcells, incels, people that are disaffected by modernity. There will be millions of these people that won't find a hope, that will destroy themselves.
Yeah, and I was about to say, and eventually one of those people is going to say namaste, and it's not going to end well for a particular group, I think. I mean, even if it's just another sort of mass casualty event, or even just narratively speaking, it's going to be pretty rough. But the idea of glitter family or found family is destructive outright, and that's definitely true. Which leads us, I think, actually rather into the next super chat from Raging
that's
Mandrill.
The thing, but I will say that parents have failed their kids, though.
Well,
boomer parents have failed. And it's funny because there used to be an outlet for this. And I talk about this in my podcast in Soul Variety Mega Show #2 coming out this Friday, where I talk about nu metal and I talk about bands like Stained that wrote lyrics about it, and even Limp Bizkit. So I have this long rant about nu metal. So
but speaking of the issue,
listen to the Stained song For You.
That is
perfect. That summarizes everything. Hey, go ahead. Sorry, Prude. Sorry.
You're good. But Raging Mandrill actually kind of continues this conversation for 199 US, saying the ho/family problem is a regional, says Steve Saylor. And I think that's definitely true, where people, there was that tweet earlier today where it was like, compare the Tinder profiles of someone living in San Francisco to Montana. And it's, there are two different species of people there, basically. And it's almost as if the abdication of parental responsibility or enabling of responsibility has kind of led to the aesthetic of what people are after. And it becomes a regional problem of, well, am I dealing with hoflation or am I dealing with, actual quality here?
Yeah.
And I mean, this isn't just, I mean, it's also based upon demography, but I mean, like, you can see white shit libs look like a totally different ham beast than in San Francisco than, say, girl posing with a truck and gun outside there.
Corn-fed beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
young and beautiful, Lana Del Rey style corn-fed sitting next to a truck. I mean, like,
Or
it's
in your where you
it's the
live,
next hot girl
tamale-fed
nationalism.
beautiful.
I don't live that close to the border, thank Christ, but I once did.
Yeah.
And I can't say that there's too much beauty there.
Oh man.
But all right, let's see here. The next one is from Prince of Parma for $10 US. Sargon is going to see this general amnesty as further proof of his Elon is king theory. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how, I mean, there's plenty of things to criticize with Moldbug's like CEO monarchy deal, but I mean, Elon's sort of your closest example of it in action. He's cleared them out. He's turned the company profitable and he has some significant leverage over the public square. Like, this is the most effective corporate hostile takeover of the digital, like, public square that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think that this will be the example going forward for disaffected billionaires. Like, if the Mark Andersons or the Peter Thiels of the world want to, like, do something, maybe
Yeah.
not waste a couple $100 million on a rigged Senate election, but instead maybe, like, take over another social media platform.
That's probably for the best bet. That's why when Moldbug, this is how I knew Moldbug was totally corrupted, because when he said about Bankman-Fried, he's like, he should just go into corporate lobbying. It's like, no, you could do so much better with money if you had like someone like, say, like
look at how successful he already was, funneling billions of dollars out of Wall Street into the Democrats, into Ukraine, into, I mean, that's what's going to happen.
No, you need, like,
he had power. I mean,
people mean on like the Theo Horowitz Anderson network, but like they probably are behind the scenes. Who knows if they're triumph of the tweet? Yes, yeah. But also that other point about the corn-fed beautiful. Do you think that there will be a reverse of the trend of like mostly women going to big like urban cities as immigration becomes terminal? Do you think that they're going to stay in their like little bumpkin towns now, and they're going to marry John the tractor farmer or the tractor repairman?
I mean,
mechanic?
but let's not kid ourselves. America has this really baked in, and this goes really back to the Depression, where America has a baked in sort of, let's go to the cities and make it big. I don't want to stay in this small town. I do think that some of that is kind of reverse its trend slightly. I mean, that's why so many people are heading for the hills nowadays. Our friend Semiagog did a really great stream on this with Charlemagne and others about heading for the hills and homesteading. I mean, William Wheelwright's another great example, but I mean, Spasticus Autisticus is right. The IQ shredder is not going to stop shredding. But I think a lot of people are beginning to opt out of it too.
Yeah.
Where that's just the case.
Yeah, Gifts Ungiven is this generation's Lenny Riefenstahl. I'm texting her that right now. So you're on notice, Fishy Frenzy. She's not my girlfriend, okay? I hope, I wish one day, but she's not my. People keep saying that every episode. She's like, gee, is she your girlfriend? Like, what? I wish. Like, Lionel Hutz, where not Lionel Hutz, that one scene with Troy McClure, where Patty's like, was it Patty or Salma that married him? He's like, are you gay? Gay? I wish. My girlfriend, never mind. Home sneeders are the future aristocracy. That's very true, Charlemagne.
Let's see here. The
also,
next
Alex,
one.
You mentioned something that may have happened recently with Yi. I don't know. Listen, it's probably him, but I don't want to comment publicly too much on this stuff.
No, we'll see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
Let's see here. Cringewalker for $5 US as a Twitter shareholder who voted yes on the buyout. I'm glad I'm able to tell my theoretical future children I did my part. Well, there you go, Cringewalker. There you go.
There you go. You did your part, my friend.
New
Gio lost his chance already. Oh no!
Oof.
No!
New Gloff for $5 US says thoughts on the distributist principle of the right flexing power it doesn't have. I mean, we don't have a lot to begin with. There's a lot of truth to it, but I think that there is, especially with this Elon thing, this is why I kind of ranted, and I agree with Charlemagne that, like, the right has got so much learned helplessness that we're seemingly to be incapable of taking advantage of even minor W's. Is that how much opportunity to create power exists in this new ecosystem? I think that we're still in the ash has not settled from this, the great namaste yeeting of the Pajits. I think that there's an opportunity to create something new and out of this. And the fact that the discourse has moved in such a prominently rightward direction, even by mainstream people, I think that there's opportunity for power. And I mean, even some of the stuff that we plan to do with the Old Glory Club is to eventually create mutual aid societies in the same way that the guys over at Exit that our friend Bennett's Phylactery has been a part of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is happening. You just have to know where to look for it. And you're right. On the grand national meta-narrative side of politics, like, you're right. There's not a lot of power there. But power is what you make of it. And most of it is based upon your proximity. And this is why I do focus a lot on people not giving up, politically speaking, on the local offices or your county commissioner. Because I've learned in my time in real life politics, whether it's electioneering, campaigning, stuff like that, a lot of people are politically illiterate and politically R-worded. And so by taking advantage of that, there's a lot of opportunity for yourself to create even a tiny niche of power, which you can use as sort of a crowbar and pry bar into things that can do much more. But you're right. We shouldn't be flexing power that we don't have, because it does illustrate. It's like, don't be like those, dubious, fed up, glowy sort of, fraternal bits where they're walking around saying like, whose streets are streets? And then you go home into a hotel. So they're not really your streets because you had to like fly over here to do it. You don't control it. But there is room for power to be made. And I think that we should be less ambivalent about our opportunities. We should just be able to seize smaller wins and create something from it.
Yeah, that's ultimately, when you're in a guerrilla position, that's what you're gonna have to do. Look at Alex with the height, like the height black pilling. I'm like 5'11", so like you gotta be 6 feet. Like yeah, like any girl can tell the difference. Look at this too. Gio will keep any JF secret for his cred in the incel community. It'll be revealed eventually in an Achilles tier scandal. Oh my god.
Oh boy.
But I think another thing too is you have to like put in context what Dave meant by that quote. He said that the right projects power that it doesn't have, and the left likes to kayfabe and pretend it doesn't have power that it does. And it's true though, because as the right wing, we feel that we're the hires of Western civilization. So it belongs to us and it's being stolen from us. Whereas the left wing, they have to always pretend like they're the underdog. It's really a grift. It's really like this kayfabe that they do, where they pretend like there's literally people that are saying that, as a trans person, you should be, you should join this, whatever it's called, gun club or whatever, and you should arm yourself to the teeth because they're coming for you. It's like, wow, I'm really sure where, I live in a country.
I don't think we should be giving mentally ill individual, anyways.
Well, yeah, but no, but I mean, like, it's part of the kayfabe. It's part of like, we're not really in power, and it's a LARP for them. But the problem is, Dave is kind of correct. The Serious is correct that, we do kind of project power that we probably don't have materially, but
in a material sense, absolutely, that's 100% correct. But let's see here. Cringe Walker for $2 US says federal alphabets shaking hands with rainbow alphabets. So true. So true. Fishy Frenzy for £2 says, Gio, I see that you follow furries. Defend yourself.
I don't follow furries. Okay, you're talking about my friend Fausti? Okay. Fausti's an artist friend of mine. She has like some furry proclivities, but she's not like a real furry. She's like, a base trad wholesome poster. I'm not joking. I'll vouch for Fausti. So
there you go. Answer found. The next one, of course, is from Dunkachino. $2
Dunkachino, I love that.
Who wins Andrew Tate versus Alexander Bard debate?
What is this happening?
I don't know. Is it?
If this happens, I'm gonna. Let me just look up. Let me look Alexander up quickly. Bard. Oh my god! If that fucking guy managed to get Andrew Tate before me, then
I don't know.
This isn't happening. You're just joking.
I'm not seeing anything about it, but I mean, if we're talking about Tate versus what, like the syntheism. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I don't
One,
see
I see
anything here.
I see a performative, conversion to Islam versus some really weird transhumanist religion. I mean, it'd be interesting to see them debate. But I don't know enough about either of the two of them to give a definitive take.
I think Bard will win because he'll throw out so many abstractions on Andrew Tate. And I'm not mad if it's going to happen on the podcast. I think it's going to happen. So I'm not mad. I'm keeping my cool. I'm doing better things. I don't know. I can't. What would they even talk about? What would like the sort of cosmic phallus versus what Andrew Tate's doing? Like, I don't know. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be again, if that happens, I'd be down to see it and watch it happen live.
Yeah.
But I mean, until then, it's an interesting.
I'd love to. I would love to like hear also the absolutely room IQ temperature takes from the host of that particular show. So. Also, it'd be a good way to get your channel nuked if Andrew Tate was
sure would be.
So
Tate should just fight Sam Hyde IDK. I mean, I'd love
Sam
to watch
could probably
that.
win it. I mean,
Sam probably would. And then
because Andrew Tate, is it true he's got fighting experience though? I don't know. He says he's a cage fighter, but
well, I mean, even if he doesn't, I mean, it'd be a good fight nonetheless.
Let's
just be one more notch in all of his belts for Sam Hyde to make his way closer to Los Angeles and take on the real problem.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Cringe Walker for $5 US says, a white pill I always like to mention is that for every one adolescent trans kid, 30 kids leave the school system. That's a whole classroom.
Whoa.
Well, that's good. That's why good. Here in America they're going so hard after school choice and homeschooling. But I think it's enshrined in some states' constitutions. So I mean, there's some pretty safe stuff here.
Yeah. But there probably could be. I think like the education system itself would probably maybe experience a huge number of knocks. Huge blows to their legitimacy in the coming years, maybe with like millennial parents.
Apparently Tate's a kickboxer, so there you go.
Yeah, I believe he has a few belts and he won a few tournaments in kickboxing, I believe. Although you never know if he embellishes his record or not. But yeah, he has MMA experience. Yeah, he has kickboxing in particular. I don't know if he went to K1 or not, but I think he said he was at K1 level or yeah.
Tate Hyde Piker 3-way cage match. Let's go.
3-way, like kind of like Edge versus was it Edge, Triple H, and Jeff Hardy when Jeff Hardy won the belt? That one, Vengeance. Was it Vengeance or was it No Way Out? Anyways, go ahead. Sorry, I'm getting lost in wrestling lore. So
Paul Moosefoot for $2 US says total liberation is death. Always is. And Paul Moosefoot once more for $5 US says it's called freedom because the esoteric meaning is free domination. Well, we seemingly like to be handing that out like candy these days, and that's definitely it. So, I mean, we're in for a ride, kids. Just like that Twitter thread was talking about Canada, it'll start there, just like things tend to start in Australia and Canada, and it will come for the rest of us.
Yep.
So
soon, America will have its own MAID program.
We'll have one sooner than you think. Probably in Vermont, probably in California.
Oh yeah, Oregon already has something like that.
I think Oregon does have something similar like that in regards to physician assisted for terminal patients, but it'll be expanded. It's coming home.
Oh yeah, as soon as Canada expands it, because Canada is basically just Oregon, the country. So, yeah.
Well, Gio, is there anything else that you'd like to add on this Twitter drama that has unfolded these last 2 weeks?
I think it's amazing. I think the energy is so high. I think the fact that Twitter experienced its own like micro state of exception when we all thought it was going to die. I think that it seems that history is like the week is getting longer in that old news is like the news is so rapid now that it seemed like, 2 weeks ago seems like ancient history. What do you mean, Alex? That's not true. Come on. It's true. It's true. Maybe Seattle, like maybe Canada is Seattle. Yeah, it's Portland, the country. There you go. It's Portland, the country, except for Alberta. But no, I think that yeah, go and follow my channel, go and follow my Patreon. And like I say, Content Minded is going to be out this Friday, and I'm going to have a special extra hour for my patrons too. So as always, and next week I'll probably come out with I'll probably come out with, but it'll take a lot of editing. The Impossible Princess episode where we talk about art and design and everything, and yeah, it's gonna be great. It'll do that one.
Fantastic. Well, as always, of course, next week the Digital Archipelago will be over on Geo's channel. Topic to be determined, but we've always got some good stuff lined up for you. Tonight there will be another article reading for patrons, along with a review of what Stephen M. Walt is talking about in regards to the anarchic system and generating balance of power in the 21st century. And then afterwards, we're going to be talking about deglobalization with Semyagog this Saturday. I've got some other interviews that I'm currently lining up for in the near future, but that stuff is TBD in regards to time frame. But as always, this as regards to Twitter, I think that there's a new opportunity for new momentum. I think people are excited, and stuff is going to be really moving on in the right direction. And I think that we're going to be doing all right. So as always, if you want to see more, there's always Subscribestar for myself, Patreon for Geo, plenty of exclusive content coming very soon. And until then, we will see you all next Thursday. If you're an American, please enjoy your Thanksgiving with your friends and family. Be sure to call them. If you're not able to travel, it means the world to them. Call your grandmother, all that stuff. We'll take care. And we'll see you next time.
God bless and goodbye. Too sweet.